order, North Shore District 112 Reconfiguration 2.0 meeting. It is June 5th, 7 o'clock. And can I get a roll call?
Yes, Ronnie,
Yes.
Julie,
Julie.
Ira, Megan, Jory,
Here.
Kenneth, Rocky,
Here.
Melissa,
Here.
Ivan, Raphael,
Yes.
Mark L,
Yep.
Carol L, Darren,
Yep.
Jeff,
Here.
Ann,
Here.
Dan R,
Yes.
Davis, Helen,
Yes.
Ronald,
Here.
Mark M, Mark F, Carol D, Brian,
Yes.
Rick, here, Dan,
Here.
Lori,
Here.
Becky. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can I get an approval of minutes from May 31st, 2017?
Move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are good. Would anyone like to make public comment? No.
Yeah, though, why is it so hot here?
Okay.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know,
Last time it was freezing.
and so now it's like.
I brought a sweatshirt today.
Ask my guys. You a guy?
Next time,
I got a
Claire.
John will
John's got a guy.
I got a guy.
My only comments are that, I thought chairperson comments. We are going to break out into groups shortly that are the groups that we'll be working in on Wednesday and Thursday this week. And it's gonna be amazing.
Bigger groups.
Me, like this.
There was some method of madness.
There was, and I thought spiritual guidance was what are needed. So we're good. Let's just be really productive and efficient with our time. We're not gonna look at any other incoming information from Ignagler building before we're on the other side of these forums. So right now our focus needs to be 100% on the forums. Actually, that's the end of my comments because now we're going to move to item 6. I'm on 6.1 before I tell you what your groups are and before we break out into groups. One of the things that we're going to do both nights is talk about what we're not talking about. And we're not talking about the things that we're not ready to talk about. So everyone needs to know what those things are and be okay with saying we are not there yet. The only reason that we've been able to work in such an aggressive clip is that we've really stuck to the process and the timeline that was established with people who know a lot about how these things work. And so, feel very comfortable saying we're not there yet. And in fact, you have to say we're not there yet. We're not speculating about what's going to happen. So, without really honing in on configurations, we aren't going to be able to address boundaries. Without addressing boundaries, we can't talk about staffing and associated costs or savings to staffing. We are not talking about curriculum. We are not talking about transportation. We are not talking about class size or bond structure. So if there's anything else,
structure?
bond structure. If there's
Yeah, in other words, these financial projections are project related, not bond related. So they don't represent what a referendum would look like.
And or what a tax increase would look like, which is what people will, that's where it's really. So we're not talking about tax levies.
In terms of class size, though, we say the 19 sections.
We're going to say that there's already a guideline that's been established by the board. And so the 19 sections reflect what we know about our demography
Yes.
and the established guidelines. So that's kosher, but if someone, comes to you saying they want teeny tiny classes or
Like in
big,
school and
huge
fifth
lecture
grade.
hall, like, we're not talking about it.
And we know the 19 sections has some bandwidth to go down a few or up a few, so.
Yeah, based on how many.
Guidelines
Yep.
as well.
It's called math.
Just real quick though, to Helen's point, we do have boards at the finance station that show what your possible tax increase might be for a possible referendum amount, but that is not tied to the other numbers that we're talking about. Those are the same types of boards that we had at the previous forum.
How are we showing that on a board?
Do
Because
you,
I was never there either.
oh, you weren't
It's a
there?
grid,
Okay.
basically.
Oh, I'm sorry. If we saw
Mark, do you wanna go ahead?
Well, it's just a grid with, I think, 4 discrete amounts for the referendum, and then house value ranges.
So what targets did you put on those
And
boards?
20 and 30 years, both were presented. But, so the question was, what are the 4 discrete amounts? And we had 75, 100, 125, 150, and we bumped that 25 to like,
We have 175.
yeah, we have now we have 100, we have 100, 125, 150, 175.
I think we had the 75.
We kept
I
75,
think
yeah.
we left it because we showed that, but we determined that, just to leave it because it's what was.
Oh, here's the poster.
This from last time.
Last one.
I can't see.
Yeah, it's just a grid.
You wanna pass it around?
We could look at it.
I'm not sure this would be.
Chocolate, don't touch
The 30 year was.
Although I think
It's basically a grid, so you can see how much your taxes are. And it's, but yeah, it's just level, meaning there's no increase. This is the first year. This is a key point, actually. A lot of people were, I think, upset in the last referendum. There was sort of this teaser rate, if you will. So the first year was X, and then it started escalating, so it was back end loaded. And this assumption we made was just that you would pay the same amount throughout the whole term of the bond.
Right,
So
like a mortgage.
Fixed rate.
Fixed rate, yeah. And so we just updated that for the new interest rates, but I did get some feedback from people about, it is a little bit, the idea of talking about specific referenda amount numbers is controversial, and what do we want to even put on there in terms of framing, if you will, if, people would interpret it as that. You don't want to, yeah.
So that's a really good point, because one of the things that, if you find when we do break out into groups, if there's anything that you want addressed at the beginning of the night, in our introductory remarks before people start that gallery tour, we're gonna break out, and then we want all of you to report back. It would be really helpful if there's something that comes up that you think everyone should know before they go look at a single board. So in other words, when Melissa Raff and I set up the discussion at the beginning of the night. Like Mark's point that you just made, just reminded me of that, because that's a good one.
A really basic question. On the sort of modified spreadsheet of the costs and dollar estimates, what's going to be on the boards?
Melissa?
So the boards are ready to route, we just got them from Link, and it's only the middle section that is on the board. So we're gonna hand out
We got some cheap.
kind of a cheat sheet to everybody so that when we break into our groups, everybody knows which configurations are at their station and can kind of study how that falls together, because we renamed all of the models A to H, so that we're not using numbers that would be confusing to the attendees. But so for our purposes tonight, we put together this cheat sheet that will show you, like, model A is our number 4.
Thank you.
That's
all I ever wanted.
We're talking about the summary.
So
Summary.
this is what will be on the board,
Okay.
but they've made it look like the style of the other boards. But so Biden and Darren and John worked on this Thursday and Friday to figure out a way to present the numbers and to support them with statements that explain some of the numbers. And before we break out into groups tonight, they're going to recap that for us and kind of tell us, guess what, Darren, you're presenting?
Biden's here. Biden just walked in.
Oh, look at that! You got Biden.
Biden just walked in.
Biden, don't be late.
So they're going to just tell the rest of us kind of how they have presented the numbers and what the statements, how everything fits together, so that those of us who are not as well versed in speaking about the numbers can talk to these boards at the stations, but then also so those of you who are very well versed can also say, hey, that's awesome that you guys did that. Because I greatly appreciate that they stepped up and worked that out. Ron?
I just have a fact question. So first of all, these are awesome. They came out great.
Those are not the boards, just to be clear.
Do you
Yeah.
have the board to
But,
show?
so, question, so, and maybe this is just my lack of understanding. So Oak Terrace shows us dual language in everything, in all of them, right?
Except 5, right. Mhm.
Except that. And I had in my head that dual language, and Oak Terrace now, I've been told, I thought was all dual language right now.
They still have a monolingual section in 4th grade and 5th grade. So they're not officially an academy.
Routing to dual language academy.
Moving up,
It is.
they're almost out, but at the lower levels, it's all dual.
Okay, but so that, and there's just one more data point. So I was told dual language actually has sort of one native Hispanic, Spanish-speaking person and one not in each class. In theory, they're matched up 1-to-1, is that right?
They tried.
They tried.
to do it.
I don't know if they're matched up per se, but the
Racial
Because that's not exact.
Right now it's 60-40.
75-25. So the school is 75-25. I guess I'm just trying to understand.
35 what?
which
75 Hispanic in Oak Terrace, 75% Hispanic. So I was surprised.
I don't know where you're getting the numbers from.
John,
Well, the dual, right, it's not based on program though. Just because they have that ethnicity, they could still be an English speaker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in a
Yeah.
monolingual class, they don't have to be in a dual language.
Yeah. So that number kind of, their race won't necessarily equate to the.
Where are you
dual
going?
language.
What's the question?
well, I just want,
Now they just stepped in.
I just want to make, well, as we go through this balancing, I just want to make sure we're not reigniting the civil war of Highland Park, right? So I want to make sure we're looking at the balances correctly. And the numbers I was working with, I think, are just off.
So here's another thing that we can't talk about, right? Because the people who are coming in to run curriculum and also languages aren't here yet right now. And so we can't speak to that, first of all, because it exceeds the scope of our work right now. We've been given numbers, I mean, we're working with the status of knowledge as it is, but also like different administrators are gonna come in and we're not sure what dual is gonna look like on the other side of July. So
But maybe I'm the only one not getting it, but Ron, could you just sort of summarize, like, what would the concern or the question that would sort of trigger this sound like?
So I think, I think people, we've been communicating for the most part, at least, not we, but it's been communicated. Dual language is sort of targeted to be 50-50 native Spanish speaking, 50 not, right? And so when you're moving that cohort through, you don't have all Hispanic, you don't have, it's a mix, right? But when you look at the numbers, what's happening is you're shifting a ton of all the, mostly Hispanic, all north and none south. And so there's a,
Why, right on.
they're all gonna flow to, they're all flowing to Northwood though, right?
That's all.
Yeah, they're all flowing to Northwood.
Oh, for
You're
middle
saying by middle school.
By mid, he
By
said
middle school, right, for middle school, right.
Look at these
Well-
pages, it's gonna, I think, give you some, because that tells you mono and dual for middle school.
I would say in terms of dual language, there's very minimal change, right? There's not one where we've got multiple middle
Well,
schools.
maybe-
Very minimal change.
I think there's some concern, right, that's gonna,
That we're not moving people or that we should be moving people?
well, we should be balancing things more than we are.
Well, one of the challenges that was articulated a long time ago was that it's not as easy to move kids that are in a less economically advantaged situation to a different part of town. So one of the reasons why Oak Terrace is kind of that way historically, I think, is because you can't just sort of spread the dual language program all over town, because it's I don't know if it's a regulation or it's not, or discouraged or.
But there are currently kids bused down to Red Oak and Sherwood.
At elementary level there.
There's dual language, there's more, a lot of dual languages come from.
So,
To the middle school.
There are
it's at the
other
middle school level that
purposes.
I think Ron has this concern.
I think the problem that we've been told is that you can't have very difficult to have two dual language programs at the middle
It's a
school.
staffing
Very difficult to
concern.
staff it. And
It's a
they've been
staffing
really emphatic
concern and a
about that
scheduling
because
So it's good that it came
And a
up,
cost.
because the idea of splitting that stacking model into two schools when it's currently in one campus is a decision that's beyond the scope of where we are today. and perhaps a 2.0
I
overall.
remember in CPAC just coming up, we wanted to avoid the concept of social engineering in any way, shape, or form. But we just didn't want to tackle that.
That would be a board.
And now there's some different philosophies around that whole, can you split the DL program up, is it better, is it worse? That's what I think Ronnie's alluding
That's
to,
my
that there's
point,
gonna
we
be a
don't
whole
know.
new, there's gonna be a whole new regime over from the super to the.
If for no other reason, just something to maybe put on the
Yeah.
list of things you'll want to discuss on
So-
Wednesday, Thursday, because I think,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of concern.
Well, is it acceptable to say, these reconfiguration proposals reflect sectioning that goes along with the current model? They don't preclude changing that philosophy and moving DL around, it doesn't preclude that.
Well, and I
The
think
19
that's
So
sections,
it's not, these are separate from that.
the 19 sections account for the number of students we have in our population. How they get divided and manipulated as programs develop or evolves, we have the capacity to house.
But we are talking about academies, and we
I
wanted
know
to get
we're saying that here,
feedback
but
on
they can
academies.
change based on the board.
They can change based on the board, they can change based on the administrator. I think that we can also say that one of the things that we're trying to bake in to all of these configurations to the extent possible is flexibility. So that when there are pedagogical decisions, when there are staffing decisions, we have sites that can move.
So we're accommodating the kids in the district, and if we wanted to make dual language academies out of Ravinia and Braeside, we could do that. But that's not a decision we're making.
But
I think
also,
it kind of brings up a question, or what you brought up before, that we're not talking about boundaries, okay? But we are talking about feeder schools, okay? But those are flexible. I think that we need to make that point. That right now, we have, and I'm just looking at Model A, for example, that we have, Red Oak Indian Trail and Oak Terrace going into New Northwood Middle School, but that could be flexible down the road. And I think that's an important point to make.
But I think that goes to the boundary topic. This boundaries have become more flexible as we go down the road. We can't stay
Right.
20 years.
And feeder schools.
The feeders are selecting the number of sections at the schools, and the boundaries will fill those sections.
Right,
That is the concept.
but we can't say that these are definite,
No,
no,
that's a good point.
no
I think you need
flexibility.
to, I think you're
It's
gonna
just
need more.
a recommendation as to what the size of the building is by the number of kids per section, how many sections can fit.
Exactly.
That's
And
all.
as close as possible to the current years.
Without making.
But I think you have to
drastic-
be explicit about that, because I think people have in their head, if they see a school feeding, they're gonna think whatever the current boundaries are feeding
Well,
it.
no, because we also want to shine a light on the fact that our approach and Nagel's approach to this whole process has been modular. So you might see elements of a particular model that are very compelling and other elements that you find very problematic. As an example, we've got 2 new builds in one configuration, but we don't have.
We're problematic.
Well, it depends on who you ask, right? But we need to let people know, like, if you find the idea of a new build very attractive, but you're more invested in elementary or middle, then we can break that out.
But what Ron brought up is a really good, so the way this discussion, and your comment about the boundaries too, what we have to say is, yeah, so these concepts have all of these elements in them that people get stirred up about. And what we really want people to focus on is, just look at the buildings, and the funding and kind of, or the cost of the project, look at the buildings, look kind of what the vision is. But where the students go, what the boundaries are, what the staffing model is, where DL ultimately ends up, what curriculum it is, all of that is just set at the default of what the district currently is doing. We're really kind of staying as close
I
as
think you
possible.
just need to be very explicit about that at the outset. If you're looking at things to say at the outset, that's what you need to say, the level set, because I think.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the
Actually, that
answer
makes no
partly
sense
that
to me.
these models reflect different, I mean, there are a whole bundle of competing community values and interests and educational values, and these models reflect different ways of balancing those interests. And so, and one of those things we've looked at throughout this is trying to keep minimal change, as minimal change as possible, and to a certain extent on some of these models, the decision was made, keep middle schools sort of generally the same, at least in terms of their makeup.
And I think, just real quick too, the piece that we're giving people to navigate the room is going to have the models on it, and on the back is gonna be a glossary. So for people who don't have an understanding of what the dual language program is, that's on the back, so that when they look at these, they don't think, oh, well, that just must be all the Hispanic kids in town. No, the dual language program is intended to be 50-50, and you know, is it 60-40? Maybe, and sometimes that's 60-40 in one direction, whereas in kindergarten, it's 60-40 in the other direction. So like, it's changed also over time, that program. And we wanna make sure that people understand that when you see them at middle school, they have 3 classes.
I just think you need to be careful when you throw out those numbers, because you're 60-40 and your head is native Spanish speaking. That's different than Hispanic versus non-Hispanic.
We're not talking about dual language at the forums though.
Right, right, but I mean, you're concerned about what this looks like. There are plenty of English-speaking kids in these numbers as well, like it's a mix. I guess I don't understand what you think you're gonna be asked.
No, I think I do understand, and I don't think Raf's answer will pass. Because most of our configurations, except for the big middle school in town, and maybe the pairs, Red Oak is only open as a dual language school. It's Rayson, it's only open, Red Oak is only there as a dual language school. It's Rayson Detra to exist is at a dual language school.
I'm sorry, can we have one conversation at a time?
What I'm trying to say to you is, let's not be so, I don't wanna say facile, but, you know, annoy people with not being, it never is there except as a dual language school. So if you were to say, these boundaries are all kind of, no, not these boundaries, programming could change everywhere, that configuration makes no sense. The whole configuration is new. So it is a configuration with Red Oak as a dual language school. And so if someone's got that as their brief, if they're the one standing there, you have to be able to say, in this configuration, the idea is that Red Oak would be an academy in addition. And if you don't say that, you're not giving any meaning to that configuration.
No, you can say that, it's
Yeah.
just, the academy by itself is a whole concept.
And
It could be
Wait a second.
The academy could be, it's just a concept. They may not like academies. They may want to
Correct,
have.
in which case it won't be that configuration.
Yeah.
Because when that configuration is not an academy at Red Oak, the whole configuration would need,
Right.
doesn't really
I think
exist.
that's right.
And that's all I want to say.
They won't get cooties from going to Sherwood.
I didn't say anyone would get credits for going to Sherwood, that's not helpful, and I wanted to say, we can't stand there and be know-nothings, because that configuration is about, and if the staff were to decide, not us, that dual language academy, then this is not the configuration that would go forward.
So do we all understand, and we are gonna, when we break out, we're gonna explain why we organized these the way that we did, and we want everyone to kind of just do a pulse check in your respective groups and make sure that you have everything that you need in order to field questions. And we tried to do like a disciplinary balance. There was also a question of availability on the 2 nights. But with regards to the academies versus in
These are
in
in
elementary.
chosen.
So my question is, does everyone understand that there are merits and limits to academies and to mixed
Each
use
of the
sites?
models.
And understanding what those are educationally and operationally.
And that the district will be very happy to know what the public thinks
Yes.
of this concept.
That's right.
Because remember, we're out there to elicit, as Jeff says, we're not selling anything. We're looking for acceptance, rejection, things we haven't thought about, input, and that's what those configurations are supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's the focus
That's right.
of the conversation.
You're like a screen.
So 2 points. To follow up on your point first, because the end result coming out of the board might be a number of these different ideas put together in somewhat different fashion.
Correct.
We need to make sure that when we're talking to people, they just don't say, oh, I hate this whole thing. We need to draw out, is there anything you like about it? You know, so we try to get pluses and minuses
Right.
on each of these configurations, so that even if they hate 90% of it, we want to know if they like 10% because we need to capture them.
Totally.
So,
They like their school, so.
right, so it's just, well,
And in terms of interacting with the community at large, I think it's very important for us to hear what people love or hate. We're not gonna talk about what we love or hate. We're going to be very dispassionate.
Yes.
We're going to talk about objective facts. We're going to talk about, you know, what this means educationally, operationally, in terms of
Stick to
the
the
building
summary
inventory that we
points.
have. Nobody is adding commentary or editorializing.
yeah.
You wanna open it up, but none of us, and actually, we made a point of not putting people who authored certain configurations at those sites, because it's really important that there isn't even
We
the
don't wanna be lobbying.
suggestion, right?
That's smart.
Dispassionate.
And that's how we try to set up the bullets, so on your cheat sheet,
Talk about it.
these bullets will be on the boards, and we set them up so that they all, each model has the same subheads. And we tried to use very similar language for each one of them, just changing it where there's a differentiation. So that they're consistent across them, and we tried to make them, dispassionate, as we said, so.
Are these the same that was circulated, was it a day or two ago?
Yeah, the content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions, or do we want to go ahead and break out into groups?
Well, we gotta have private.
I have a quick question. Are the attendees wearing name tags?
We're gonna ask them.
And are
Do you
we-
guys
are we
still
gonna ask
want
them
to-
to put on their what school area they're from?
So, yeah, good question.
Because it guides a lot of the responses when someone says, I hate that plan, and oh, by the way, I live by XYZ school.
So I can put that.
Asking a question, if that's something we should do or shouldn't do.
Yeah, but we're talking about, he's talking about the.
You know, but when we're standing around and someone says, I hate that plan, and you say why, they don't say why, but their name tag says Lincoln, and Lincoln's closing. I mean, it's just trying to figure out why they don't
Those
like
are
it.
Hunger Games type school.
But does that?
But put yourself in that scenario, then you have to look at the name tag and then alter how.
No, I'm just, it was just a question, because, because I'm trying to look at all this as a holistic approach to the whole district. People who are coming in are gonna give us feedback that's gonna be focused on how it impacts their current situation today and not for the district. And I
So
don't know
how do we solve for
separate-
that? I
don't know
agree,
how-
Darren, because I think about my own experience before I ever got involved in this committee work, like looking at configurations several years back.
Right.
It is human nature, and even when we've circulated these maps, what do you do when you get a map? You look at your intersection, right? And if you don't have kids, you think about your grandkids' intersection, and if you don't have kids or grandkids, you think about your property values, right? And that's totally normal, and it would be stupid for us to ask anyone not to do that. But how do we make the conversation bigger than that?
I think it's a question that, maybe it's too late in the game, but it's a question that Link should answer. Is how
What
we
is
should
the question,
try
what?
to, question that Link should be able to tell us how to approach.
So-
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
we should be asking that many questions, we should
No,
be
no, no,
saying you
no,
don't
but-
like it.
Nobody-
Would you
Michael-
please notate what you don't
It helps
like?
us put in context what they say.
That's the only point, because if everyone who, for whatever reason, the whole neighborhood comes from one neighborhood, then we have no feedback from the community. We-
That's what.
Would you
We're
please
gonna
notate
do
your
focus groups.
concerns?
We're gonna do focus groups, and one of the things we saw in the first round of community engagement is the focus group survey and the forums all tracked in terms of what we learned. So if there is a game in the system.
This is different, though. I disagree. It's different because we have maps now. We
Right.
have maps and configurations, it's completely different.
Right, but you're not gonna wanna get a certain, the feedback that we're collecting for this, is not the type of feedback that can't be tested in other ways.
Fair.
So like the focus groups will be able to say, okay, that is loaded, like, 'cause these focus groups are telling us totally different, so, but Dan, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say that, in principle, when Michael was discussing this issue, and I'm not, maybe you can sort of phrase it back to that person sort of in a general sort of way, and say, well, one way to look at it, not telling them that they should look at it this way, but one way to look at it is, if one in principle believes that some school has to close, but that the school that's closest to them should, then in reality, you don't think any school should close. Because if the school that's closest to you should close, then why should everybody have that attitude, no school close? So if you can get somebody to look at it from that point of view, not necessarily point to themselves, but just phrase it in the general sort of way, generically, then I think you
It's just a
can
point.
move it
Well,
along.
and I think it also gets framed in the boundary discussion because if we were to say, okay, what school do you identify with? You might say it's the school that you currently have kids going to. If you don't have kids going to that school, you might say, oh, I identify with the school that my kids went to, but I don't live on that block anymore. Or it might be that, oh, well, this is the school nearest my house, so I guess that's the one I identify with, but I don't have a strong opinion about what happens to it necessarily. So there's a range there, and in the boundary conversation, I think we have to say that in any new configuration, there's going to be boundary shifts. We haven't done that for 20 years, and that there's going to be boundary shifts. So for people to say, well, we have a basic answer. So we have a questionnaire that, and some answers to some questions that Lee helped us with, and that's one of them.
Okay.
What we can say about boundaries is that they haven't changed in 20 years, and that in any reconfiguration plan, there will be shifts. That's part of it. That's how we know.
Or a no reconfiguration.
We don't know what they are, and that's not in our purview right now. We don't have those answers.
Can we say, even in no reconfiguration plan, there's gonna be boundary changes?
Yeah.
So there will be boundary
You
changes.
can say the board will be reviewing boundaries.
Exactly. We have unbalanced class sizes, but in order to distribute things better throughout the district, there are likely going to be boundary changes. So even if you identify strongly with where you are today, you may not be affiliated with that same building in a different scenario.
Furthermore, the same thing, in this exact same thought pattern, is that if there is not reconfiguration, the board was ready to close schools last year. So what's just so folks.
And reboundary.
Folks, I believe, I heard Michael went to 12 schools, I thought about the 12 schools. The focusing says there aren't 12 schools. Be more positive that people are past, they're not where they were a couple years ago. Let's try and hit it out of the park.
But I
And take
agree
that.
that
Yeah.
they're looking for which school are you gonna close?
Absolutely.
And they get hung up on that, so.
And I think they're past it because there is some dissatisfaction with some of the school neighborhoods. Not every school neighborhood is in love with their school right now.
Well, we can't speculate on why people are going.
Right.
No, so I'm
It's
saying
just
the
a
same
fact
thing,
that
if you don't like this configuration, can you please notate for us what your concern
don't like
is?
about it, yeah.
What your concern is, please, we would appreciate if you would notate it.
Yeah. I don't think we should be inferring things based on like their name tag of where they're
It
from.
was just a
Not at
question,
all,
because
and
I'm very
I don't think you
concerned
should have a lot of personal conversation at all, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up.
Post comments.
Should not be a lot of personal.
One guy said, I hate air conditioning, there's no reason for air conditioning. Did you see what?
So this does feel like a decision point. So I think we should have a consistent approach about asking people what school district.
So I don't think you have to, it was just a question I had, if that was
Yeah.
part, I wasn't at the last board, so I wasn't sure how we did it, so we don't have to do it.
It came up a lot, and I think
Well,
one of
it's, the only concern I have is we're gonna come back with information that we're gonna take to the next level, and we're gonna create the roundtables, or whatever it's called. Focus groups, based on the outcome of this forum.
So I feel like the rationale, I agree with you, I think the rationale for why they don't like it is more important than who they are. Just who they are saying, I don't like it.
No, because it's a
No one's
the
gonna say
purpose
it,
of this
no
forum.
no one's gonna flat out say, because they're close to my school.
This forum is, well then, let them say that, and then I will tell you the answer.
They
Some of you
might.
will.
Raph, I have a question, are we, so just to be clear here, we are asking people to post it, their feedback, right? So I may hear 5 different things, but it doesn't matter, right? If they don't write it down, it doesn't count?
Well, yeah, because we don't want to try to do the interpreting and write it down.
I'm just asking.
The last time when that
Put their feedback up on the
Yeah,
board.
if you hear that, just say, you know, I hear you
That's a
talking,
great idea.
take a post-it, can you just write it down and put it up so we don't lose?
Yeah, just say that's awesome.
We want to take your
Capture it.
feedback and incorporate it as we move forward.
And everybody, there will be fact that there's an exit survey, people should take it on the way going out. In that exit survey, one of the things that they ask, we're gonna ask them, and I'll send this around to the group, is, did any models stand out for good or bad reasons? Positively or negative reasons?
That's great.
And then why did it stand out? And then furthermore, just asking questions about what's your most important issue? We can add a question about what school is closest to you, if we think that's a good idea, just to know that information.
So hard.
All right.
So we're not gonna come back here afterwards and say, I heard this and I heard that, right? We're just gonna look at the feedback that's written up?
You're gonna utilize it as you interpret the data that we all collect. Early break, you apply at that point.
It worked pretty well last time.
Are there going to be recorders in different stations like there were last time?
No, we're not having anyone take notes.
They were gonna be quite large, the stations, so we were,
Okay.
we didn't think it was gonna be a good play for us.
It ended up where I felt like with one person like interviewing the other person taking notes, and then there was other conversations, you
Yeah, you
couldn't
missed-
capture everything,
you
it
missed
didn't
too
work.
much, yeah. It was just too large.
One thing I've heard from the people in the public is they say, you know, you may be showing these reconfigurations or whatever, but we know a decision's already been made, okay?
What's the
If so, what I
Tell
can
us
say
what
is,
Tell us what it is, and we'll be sitting here.
what I can say to them is the only decision that's been made is that no decision has been made. And that you don't come, and that you need to come and express your opinion.
That's right.
That's really long.
But I heard this from at least 5 or 6 people.
Did you send it to Ray?
I did.
Who are they, suspicious people?
Hey, there's one more thing, Rocky just asked, and I do want to clarify it for everyone who might be confused on this. When we talk about sections, you know, we're talking about classes per grade level. When we talk about teams at the middle school level, we're talking about a larger group of kids, right? Does everybody understand that? Because it is a little bit confusing in that we didn't necessarily spell that out, but in our very small middle schools where we have teams of fewer than 75 or fewer than 90 kids, and we only have one team like that, it's very small. With a 2 middle school setup, our teams will have 2 teams per middle school with a larger population, and that means that there would be I can't remember exactly what our numbers were for the heat map, but like
150.
150, yeah.
Big one, maybe it's target.
Right.
Plus or minus.
So only in a middle school campus scenario, like number 16, would we have 3 teams.
Mostly.
Yeah, so if we're talking about so for the middle school campus, they were looking at 450 kids per grade level, that was 3 teams of 150. Now our teams may be smaller than that at a 2-team situation, but there would still be 2 teams of kids that could be grouped and regrouped. So it still is an improvement over the 1-team situation that we currently have.
So BDR3, we had 2 teams at Edgewood and 1 team at Northwood. The expectation, and we have confirmation from.
Wait, no, let's not talk about BDR3 ever.
Well, no, but the point is, we're talking, so that's different than what we're talking about now. We're talking about, even if we have fewer kids, say, at Northwood, that we'll still have 2 teams at each school and we'll staff to that.
That's not up to
That's
us.
my point. It sounds like that's what you were saying. and
Well, I
think that's up
was
to
making
us.
the distinction between sections and teams, because that was the question. Was our teams the same thing as sections, and they are not. Teams are a larger group of kids
Right,
than
and I
a
was leaving
single
it,
class.
however the district uses those 2 functions, how they use
Right.
teams, what size they want to make the teams.
Right,
And how
that's
they
not up
work
to us.
staffing.
Right.
Right, so we're not gonna talk about middle school concept
Administrative issue, and it's
versus
almost
junior high concept.
No, we're not talking about middle school philosophy versus junior high. We're not talking about that at all. This is just in terms of a team is a larger group of kids than a section is.
Great, thank you.
I'd like
The
to
team
ask,
is composed of multiple sections.
Correct. The team is composed of multiple sections.
what the group is going to derive from what they heard at the forum.
So Nicholas and I,
Well, let me continue. My understanding was that there were about 200 people at the last forum. And how many people voted in the last one?
10,000.
How many?
10,000.
Say it again?
14,000.
Okay. So, to the people that come, the 200 people that come, are they primarily people with kids in school or soon to be in school? What's the makeup of the group that's coming?
Yeah, so in our recruiting tools, just watching the numbers move, most of the numbers are moving based on emails from the district and from partners like the Chicago Tribune. I can tell you for the people that the emails coming from the district, those are parents. The emails coming from like the Chicago Tribune and other partners like the Highland Park, City of Highland Park, those may be parents, but most likely are not parents or.
Okay, so that's
You mean emails or RSVPs?
my point is.
Is that what you mean, RSVPs?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
My point is that it seems like the majority of the voters that are gonna be at the forum have kids in school, have an interest in the educational aspects of the reconfiguration here. the other 95% of the voters, and I'm probably one of them, in my opinion, won't understand most of what information you're talking about without really studying it. And I'm concerned that after we meet, after this forum, you're gonna pick out what the people like with the dual language and with the academy and so on. Most of the voters, I don't think are gonna even understand that.
Well, what would you have it based on?
The last
I think
forums
you're
at all.
incorrect. I spoke to a lot of people who were, I would say over 65, maybe over 70 at the last forum, and they had a very good understanding.
How did they vote?
I absolutely agree with
I didn't ask them how they voted because that's none of our business.
Jeff, what would you base it on if not people who came out and wanted to respond? What would you possibly want to configure around if it wasn't educational values?
Well, I'll tell you, I think I'm not trying to upset the process, I'm just making a statement for us to consider.
We know
From the very beginning, we were faced with, why are we getting involved with all of the educational aspects of this when, as you're saying, the cabinet is going to play with this and make it work no matter which configuration we come up with. So what the people are really interested in is, do we have sustainability so that we don't have to have another referendum too soon? What's my taxes going to be? Are there a good distribution of schools? And a more general thing that affects 90% of the voters.
So great, they can respond to
We're
that
going to do a
too.
focus group that we're going to try to get those voters that you're talking about. This is more of an event. You got to keep in mind also that we have an event with a couple hundred people. A lot of other people are watching, they just may not show up. We also did a survey, and that's a community survey, so that's everybody. Potential representations of everybody throughout the community. So we're not going to make all these decisions based on one forum. It'll be both forums, it'll be the survey work, it's going to be what you've learned over the last year. But I understand your concern, but I wouldn't get too hung up on that at this point.
I also want to point out that at the forum, you get a lot of negative feedback. It's not like this group comes together and just cherry picks the good stuff. You get all the raw data, everything that, this sucks and this
But
is
we
great.
also will have, we
That's
won't
even
just
better.
have 3 stations with 8 configurations spread out, we have 5 stations. So we also have one for finance and one for general information that addresses our process to date, that addresses the conditions that led to the need for this group.
And you've shown respect by these forums that no one can say they weren't offered an opportunity to input. They weren't offered an opportunity to view and become educated. It's a must-do regardless.
You're gonna be surprised how many people are coming to this. This is their first time.
That's right, which
They're
is why
hearing about it.
Right.
Something's going on.
those other 2
This has been going on for
stations
years.
are super important, especially for those people who maybe aren't ready to look at configurations. And I will say, there are shifts that take place. I spoke to a woman at one of the nights at the last forum who died hard, 4 generations of her family went to Elm Place, little grandma, and she was like, and I was gonna fight for this school, and she said, after looking at the mailer and going through this tonight, I get it. This was in the gym in Elm Place, she said, I get it. So people are maybe more open than we give them credit for. I think we have to hope
And
that
I
they're
think
open.
people that even, I'm an empty nester, my friends are all empty nesters, we all live in Highland Park. Our kids got a first class education in Highland Park, and what we're looking for, and I'm speaking for people, maybe I shouldn't, but is for future generations or future kids coming up to get the same first class education that our kids got. So even though we don't have kids in the school, that doesn't mean that we don't know or don't care what's going on in the schools.
So to go back to Melissa's point about the middle school, and we were talking about how many people with teaming and things.
Oh, right.
So just to talk about these little PES people on this page, just like PES people. In Model 2, for example, Edgewood has 10 little PES people in the box. How many people, students, does each PES person represent?
So,
Is that-
there are 19 sections of elementary school on all the sheets. So that's what we've calculated our district to have, so it's.
Multiply it by like 23.
That's the question. So,
Yeah, like
so when you
22,
say each best
23.
person is 25 people.
It's the average class size.
Average class size,
Yeah.
that's the best way to, on the fly, answer the question as to
Times 3,
how many,
times each grade.
right, how many kids are, good point, how many kids are in this moment?
Right, so it's times how many grades there are, that's
So
right.
this
Because
is-
initially, we had it as like the stack up, but then the feedback was that that was a lot to look at, so we took the other frames out.
So this is 10 has people, so it's 250-ish kids per
Yeah.
grade, so 750.
Yeah. Yeah, and since some, actually, it's smaller than that
This is
because,
23.
because we have many classes that are not 450.
Figure 22.
Yeah, it's
No,
like
I'm
that
just-
22, 23, but if people don't want to do the math on that.
That question is going to be
25.
asked, so what things represent.
Yeah, that's what they
Sorry,
represent.
go back on.
And there are 19 on all of them, so they're all consistent that way, and then all 19 end up in middle school somewhere.
And what I like about the PES people is that they match up with the dual language monolingual sections on all of the pages. So if you go, for instance, I was just going through kind of, here's an example, let's look at model H, the back page, model 2. It shows you that at Wayne Thomas, if you look at them, it shows you that there's, on the back page, that there's two monolingual sections, and that's the two that are feeding into that. So like matches perfectly with the numbers we've had. So I think it's really visually
We
great.
like to pass people with
Yeah.
this line.
So with that,
I just compliment Melissa, because I really think she did a great job.
No, no,
Yes.
they're great.
But this concept was originally.
Great job, Megan. Whoever did that, I think it's a great job.
So, on that, we're gonna hand it back to you, Erin and Bobby.
Yes.
Ivan, yay! So what we're looking for, since you missed the first part of the conversation, we said that you and Darren and John would share how you arrived at this presentation of the numbers and the statements that support those numbers, so that we are all literate in what this looks like.
Sure. I'll do my best. The intent of this overall is to be clear on its face and understandable to somebody who hasn't been involved in the process for a long time. So to that end, the idea is that there aren't any abbreviations, there aren't any educational ease terms or architecture ease terms on here, so that somebody walks in off the street and doesn't do this part-time, is able to see and understand relatively quickly. So to that said, it's intended to break things down into the renovation of existing space and look at that separately, to show additions in another column, and then.
You want to walk us through one, consider one, just so we can.
Yeah, let's just pick the first one.
Find the first one.
What is that, model A?
It's just this green bar we're talking about.
Right.
A is an apple.
And go to model A.
Model A.
If you recall last week, what we did was we wanted to show things that were planned beyond the scope of the project, out in, past 2020 and into 2025. Show a number separately for that, because those are things that are going to happen in the future to a large extent. Some of them are going to be happening within the scope of the project because it makes sense to do it that way.
There's confusion on this. This isn't all the green expenditures, right? This is just things green expenditures that are hit because of the project.
We grabbed 60% of that.
No, I understand that, but we can't tell people this is everything that the green report says
No,
we're doing this project in 2025, just to be clear.
This is the 5 years.
Right, this is just stuff that, there could be something in 2022 which is not touched by our project that may have to be done. That's not included in this number, and we have to be clear about that.
Yeah, it's got its own column in here, but
But that example I gave you isn't in this number, right?
So this breakout here does have the stuff that's beyond 2020.
But if it's something that happens to, let's say at Oak Terrace, right? Something happens that you're not going to do any work on Oak Terrace, and something at Oak Terrace that's planned for 2023. It's not part of the what the architects have done. That number's not in here, right?
No, it's this column, it's this section here, it's this 40% number, the 2022, 23 numbers you're referring to years. If something happens out there, we're just identifying that we've identified a chunk of money for that window, but we are not making it part of the base project cost.
I think Dan's question, if you look at the footnote on repairs and maintenance through 2025, if there's something in the green report that's 2027,
No, I understand
that's not
that.
captured.
I'm just saying, I thought what the architects did when they went through and they had these, they said, okay, what portion of this project is green? They just looked at stuff that they were touching, like, let's say it's HVAC, right?
No, we grabbed 2025.
So you have every single thing in the green report through 2025. So if I go and I look at the reports in these buildings, I should be able to match up that. I thought the numbers, okay.
But you should be able to assume that anything that was HVAC within that 10.
No, I understand that, but again, what I'm trying to say is that there are some green things. If we tell people, well, we're covering all of our green stuff through 2025, and only stuff that's in the project, and there's a, there could be, 10, 20 million of other stuff. We need to clarify that with people, right?
I think that what you're saying is the reason for doing it the way it's shown here, and that is, my understanding is that the number that's on the Gilbane summary is green report stuff through 2025.
That they're working on in the project.
That's
It's a subset of the total green
We
project.
had it all rolled in there for 2025. This breaks it out 40%.
And 60% would be done.
It's too low. Mark's right. I think it's too low. So I
What's too low? The total?
The total, yeah, the total. I mean, I'll go back and look at this, but I think that's my understanding of this.
Dan's point is, I think he's right, which is the green report for all 12 buildings.
It was like $50 million, right?
Right, it's a much larger number, so obviously
right.
you close the school, you take that building out.
Right.
But what this touches is only the green report items of things, this is the question, of things that are being worked on in the school. So if there's no work being done on the roof at Oak Terrace, as an example,
Right.
but that was in the green report, is that number in the 2025 number or not? If that was not part of the scope of any reconfiguration project.
Right, that's exactly my question.
One more time, so make sure.
So Oak Terrace, this is just hypothetical, Oak Terrace roof needs replaced in 2027, none of the work.
We'll say 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah,
27
2023 is a 2023 example.
2023, but Oak Terrace roof is not being touched because there's no changes to Oak Terrace in part of reconfiguration plans. Is that number being pulled into the 2025 number, or is that just numbers that are things that are being planned to be touched, so it's incorporated?
It's within the 2025 number. It's within that window.
What is it within, so the estimated 40% funded by district source tax areas?
Yeah, that should be the, that should be the 2020 to 2025 window. Maybe we can state that in there.
Well, so I think the answer to the question is in here, but I still need to check.
Yeah.
No, it's all, it was all in here to start with, up through 2025. All this did was delineate the first 5 and the back 5. If we went a little heavy on the front 5, we grabbed 60% of it versus a 50-50 split. So I don't remember, this weekend we were off of memory, it was somewhere in that window, so we just went 60-40 just to be safe, right? Get a little more conservative about the numbers. So we brought 60% of it into the, because they should be done with by 2020. And the back 5, we did not roll into as part of the base cost.
I'll take a look. I don't want to take more time. I'm still confused about stuff, but.
Can I just ask, are you saying, is there anything beyond, is the green report like 100%, like not the 60-40s, but like, is there something in the green report that is not reflected in any way, shape, or form here?
Through 2025.
Yeah, so the green report goes to.
Right, I don't care about past 2025, I'm just saying through 2025, right, that's my question.
So your 2025 is dealt with the exact same way as it had done to date, except we broke out to capture that all that does not have to be part of the project of the referendum within the first 5 years.
I'll go back.
I have a quick question about.
Gross. Okay, a really dumb question. I can't make. On the last 2 columns on ongoing capital expense.
Why don't we go through?
Are people going to want?
Why don't we go through from left to right?
Yeah.
No, just the numbers don't add up.
Oh, we'll get that.
They don't add
Right here, let's go on.
Okay. So project costs on the left, these are intended to be immediate project costs through the near term, as in 2019, 2020, whatever the project finishes. And they're broken out in terms of renovation, and further broken out improvements that are just based on what we want to do with the schools themselves, as well as the HLS stuff, which is column 2. And then additions is broken out separately, and so you get a proportion, you get a feel by looking at the numbers, whether it's a lot of additions versus renovations, by comparing those, you just anecdotally. And then the fourth column is lumped together the contingencies, architects' fees, general contractors' fees, let's see. Just a question that fees is the first item, people tend to focus on that.
Yeah.
Isn't contingencies the larger element of it? Maybe too late to reword it,
Or move that to the left column, put it in.
See, I like loading the fees in because people just, you know.
It just looks like the fees are 85.
I thought there was 85 billion in
Yeah,
fees.
fees are in.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, the fees are in the project cost.
Well, I mean, frankly, no one, not actually no one, people aren't going to understand what contingency is until we walk through it, so it's
But you
not.
can still put it first.
But you
No, I
start
agree.
with
No, I
projects.
agree. Either way, it's a crazy big number.
Yes, it should be
But
$400.
it's crazy worse when it says fees on the top.
Fees are
Right,
first,
it
yeah.
looks like it's a fee.
Change that down.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It shouldn't be fees.
Service charge?
Tip, title, and
Actually,
delivery.
That's a good point. It is a big number.
Have these been printed already, or we're gonna print them another day, another time?
Are we good?
Which will come out 16, maybe it's already, there's a print formatting issue.
Yeah, that's just a visual, like I said, it's not.
So we keep going through our team through.
Yep, so number, FF.
We're still in the
Yeah.
first 5.
Yeah, that's the fifth column is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, specific to this model, let's remember right off the Gilbane report.
Is that the assumption that we're buying in 31?
Yes, I'll get to that later, but, you know, there's no offset reduction from the items we discussed last week. That's the whole number, the raw number. And then broken out separately, ongoing capital expense.
So this is all green.
Yes, this is, the first column is 60% of the green report items through 2020.
No, that's the total.
So that's the total, yeah. That's the total items for the green report, right from the Gilbane report. And then the 40% funded by district sources, and a footnote indicates that it's a portion of capital expenses identified in the green report that will be funded by the district, by district sources, such as reserves, future operational savings, and/or future tax revenue.
So just like a eyeballing thing, come up with the 8.1 symbol brackets or something, so, right, it's 20 less 8 is 12, right, that's the formula.
Oh, yeah.
They're not intended to add left to right.
Right, so it's
It's a deduction.
It's a deduction, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Or just knock out the 20.
The only problem is that it's a negative number that's being contributed by the district.
How could you not?
Yeah, I get that too.
I think just put a bracket in it.
So the idea is to show what's being built into this model.
And that's derived by the fact that that's stuff that's gonna happen after the construction.
We tried, because that was an issue brought up by last meeting. We tried to-
Just confirming if that's where that number comes from.
Is it possible, I mean, would it, just make sure I'm understanding right, can we put like an equal sign between the maintenance repair plans and then put a plus sign between the net estimated capital and the 40%?
Show the formula backwards.
You could just say something like, of which 40% funded by.
Yeah, just to clarify that those aren't three separate items, it's just making it, no, it's a summation of those two second items.
Okay, say that again.
I just like visually like the equal sign and plus sign.
Because it looks like you added it.
Melissa.
Like,
I think the solution to that, even against it, is brackets.
Well,
There's
we'll
just-
toss all the way to the point as well, so we have that feedback.
We bracket you go, shows it back in there.
Maybe
We're going to make these changes.
Can they like make it in a lighter gray or something like that, so that, like, so that the font isn't dark? So, you know what I mean, so that they know it creates the 20, it's not on top of the 20?
We'll ask.
No, but I think the point is you want all the numbers in the ad to add, right? So the 12 is what you do, 28
I would bracket not parentheses, but. Right, so I'm
Capital
bracket.
cost.
So guys, we need to really consider whether or not this is an absolute change. So these boards are created. If it's not an error, is it something we can speak to? So I think we need to really think about that as part
Why,
of,
the board's already done, that look like this?
they haven't been printed, but
Okay, so could it just?
any changes that we make have to be made basically at 0 time. Because these need to be printed by Wednesday night.
It doesn't matter if it's simple, it's gotta be really important.
It's gotta be really important,
Right.
so, and,
There's a ton of
you know,
places
kind of
that-
negotiating, we're gonna put an equal sign or brackets or this or that, or, you know, like, it needs to be, is it an error?
Can we clarify,
Or is it
people aren't gonna be
speak to?
looking at this outside of the context of the forum.
Okay, and there are, everything is footnoted, is there something that we could switch in the wording of the footnote rather than changing all the charts? Because the footnotes are all the same.
Ellen, you've been
Yes,
waiting
so I'm only
patiently.
talking, actually, I'm not, this is not to do with the footnotes or any of that. Project fees, you're using that heading, it's fourth down, I know you touched upon it. That's the new construction, isn't it? Always. Project, it's the cost with new construction.
No.
That's project fees, that's not fees for the whole.
Pardon me? Oh, so the project fees, okay. Project fees, when you say general, where is the new construction?
It's additions to existing space inside of.
Addition, that's the 75.
Where are the new schools on A? Under project
The
fees?
subsidized
million, those are 75
million,
right
here.
Right.
New Northwood. It's a new little.
So the project cost ends up being the third item always, and it always represents what's new in the construction.
Whether that's a building or a new wing.
Very good, okay, so I got
But that's
mixed
the hard
up.
construction cost,
All
not.
right, then it's very simple. But there are also step number 1 every time, there should be item 1 every time.
There are soft costs for new construction built into the project
Really?
fees number. I mean, that's the
Okay,
contingencies and
Is that
the.
so?
You keep
Right.
climbing.
It should be number 1.
No, that's a personal preference. I
No,
think,
no, but listen, it's the biggest item of the project always,
but
isn't
maybe
it?
on this one, but not on every. We can't just make this arbitrary change because it's right for A. I think we have to focus on the really big.
I think.
That's the thing, is that it has to scale across 8 boards.
It's the biggest number on every
On the high end.
It's the biggest number on all of them.
Not D.
So if we can finish this, getting through the one,
Please, yeah.
let's just finish it through the 1 year and we'll finish with the.
In B, it's on 70.
Okay.
We talked about how to do this upper range,
Hey guys, let's let Megan finish.
the upper range, lower range idea and implement that. And the upper range reflects the sum of all the green report and all the first 5 columns. And then,
Can I correct that?
yeah,
It's not, it's not all the green report, it's the 60%.
All those are presented here, 60% of 60%.
Well, and then to get our range, rather than selecting, you know, we considered the 15% idea that was presented in those comments from last week, from the architects, what they might be doing if they're maybe. So we just took 15% as a possible, either through trimming scope, reducing furniture, or not using all the contingencies, for example. That would be, you know, a conservative way to show range and show, you know, 15%.
Okay, so
basically,
the lower range is always 15% less.
it's
than
math.
right?
It's 215 less 15% of 23. It's consistent.
So all we're saying is, if we had to squeeze more money out of this without changing anything you saw on the previous 2 boards, right? The map or the old.
You're not adding more schools.
None of that's gonna change. we're gonna squeeze efficiencies and delay buying furniture, things like that.
And that is only bringing HVAC to certain room, parts of the building, the whole thing we
It's
talked
using
about.
all that package of ideas.
It's all things we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
I
all
don't
of
think we
it.
wanna get into, too many of the specifics, like talking about using HVAC in some of the
No,
buildings.
but I'm
not.
explaining the term.
I know, but in terms of the way we talk about it at the station, we need to say that it encompasses a number of items recommended by the architect and construction in general. I don't think we wanna specify like what really that looks like.
So, last meeting, I argued against what the numbers, and I lost, and I'm okay with that.
85% of
But
the.
I will tell you that having the largest number on each one of these have nothing to do with construction. So it's the contingency is asking for holy hell.
But it's not that it doesn't have anything to do with construction.
Let's see what Ron's saying maybe a little differently. Can someone please articulate the benefit of including these numbers in the presentation?
Of including separate.
Or including them at all?
Well, we have to include them, but you include them in part of the cost. Contingencies are gonna happen at each point.
Well, why do we have
Raising
to,
them
why
out.
do we have to do, why do we, again, just listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Without saying, because we have to show them. Please explain the benefit of including all of this detailed numerical cost information.
I think there are two ways.
At this juncture.
I think there are two ways. At this juncture, people have been, hey guys, can we have one conversation? Sorry. Jeff. We're talking about the rationale for including numbers at all today. So we went through this big debate about it. And part of it came out to because we have to. I think the reason I explained why we have to is that people will otherwise think that we're hiding and will not engage with the material. If we show a gross number, then they'll say, what the hell is that made of? That's a made up number. So then if you show a certain amount of detail, then you're gonna end up with something incendiary of what the individual point is. So I think, but one really important thing to me personally about why it's important to show numbers is, you see across all these, including ones like 20, 24, and 2 that are relatively minimal change, there's a lot of money there, just to get it up to speed on sort of minimal sort of expectation to keep going. And that's something that a lot of people don't really understand. So I think we have to reinforce that message every time we get a chance.
So I'll go with that. I lost our argument. But I do think though, just because Helen even pointed out, when you look at this, 85 million, so that's building buildings. The answer is no, that's other stuff, right? Because you've got the 75 million is the actual additions, you've got 20 million is actual improvements. In the 85 million, which by the way, that column is the largest column in every choice, it's architect's fees, it's contingencies, it's fees. And I think when you look at it, you can say what you want. I believe it belongs in there. Okay, I'm okay with it. But the way you, and again, you guys did fantastic work. But when you break it out like that,
You're saying you're making it as provocative as you possibly could.
I think you're asking for trouble there.
I think the only thing
That's the right word, provocative.
I put contingencies into the construction side, because that's what they are.
That's what I would.
Right, so to me, if you lump the numbers together, then it's something else. But when you break those out,
The way the numbers are in the domain report, it's 70% across the board, and you can't break it out by renovations and additions.
Yeah.
So.
Right,
but you can take the 85 and put it back between those two.
Right, it's not necessarily going to the single hardware for professional services, it's going into the cost.
Well, yes, you could take the 85 and, let's say arbitrarily, but divide it up in between those two, the renovation.
It's real cost. I'm not saying they're not real costs. I'm just saying provocative is the word. Someone's gonna look at it and say, the fees are how much in this?
Well, I completely agree with you. I think it's very concerning. I said the number was gross. But in reality, is people should be focusing on the last two numbers. And the last two numbers.
Well, we gave them all the one.
The last two numbers are, I agree. The last two numbers are a component of the total cost to do this plan. What you can look at when you flip through these, we're just looking at one, but if you flip through them, you'll see in a lot of them, the additions to space versus this one is a lot smaller. So then someone will make the value judgment as to whether spending this amount of money on newer buildings or newer portions of buildings is worthwhile, or spending almost the same amount of money not getting newer buildings or newer portions of buildings.
So that all makes sense, but I think it doesn't get away from the issue that Ron
I
is
think
pointing
there's no way to
out.
get around it unless we just hide things. And I think the point we're trying to talk about is, this is what it costs. If you're gonna build buildings.
I'm not trying to, I never suggested hiding it. What I said was.
These are real costs. I mean, there's also a component of this, that this builds in certain
certain presuppositions that these projects are going to be done over a course of 4 years in phases during the summer.
Or 3.
If we make the policy decision to just go ahead and do stuff and move kids around as we need to, that number is going to be a lot lower. We're at this very difficult stage right now where we're making tough decisions.
I think the challenge is right here is about whether what is presented here is going to communicate to the layperson what we intend, right? I feel like the message might be misunderstood if it looks like it's fees and something soft that they don't understand, versus using language that's going to more strongly communicate that this is all related to construction. You can't do these things separately.
Right.
The 75 and the 85 are one thing, right?
It's in their project.
28 to 75.
All-
And the 28.
It's more accurate to allocate them to the.
You can't do the 75 million without spending a portion of the 85.
Right,
So it's all part of the project.
And you can't do the 28 without spending a portion.
And I think the people I talk to, the older crowd I've talked to, the over 60, a lot of the complaints I hear is that it's just fat. It's extra fees, how much we pay to consultants, and so I think this sort of plays into that.
Yeah.
So lots of extra consulting fees. How much does Gilbane charge every time they show up and stuff like that?
Sure, it plays in that narrative. So is there? Is there a crystal clear proposal, looking at you, John, or anyone else who's comfortable with numbers? We're smiling Mark Lawrence over there, who's asking existential questions.
He's just pleased with his last question.
No, I'll tell you what I'm doing. It's not existential. I'm writing a story that the 200 people are going to go to this, and then 2,000 people are going to read a story, the lead of which is going to be the committee unveiled however many scenarios. They were all between 150 and 200, including 80 million of fees. And the damage from that will be so severe.
So what is your proposal to fix
Remove the numbers.
Yes, is there a straightforward, no, we can't remove the numbers that we have this.
Or
construction and contingencies combined.
Or include some.
So are we gonna be changing the language?
Additional that's way lower.
Or take the 85 and allocate it back between those two.
Improvements and additions or something.
So those are two simple choices. We either lump it together or we allocate it.
So from the standpoint of making a change in 0 time, I think that changing the phrasing is probably the most surgical option with the least margin for error across boards.
Retitling that column in every
I
case.
disagree.
I think
Any change,
there's
all changes.
With all due respect, I don't know what you could possibly retitle that column that would be honest.
Well, I just had a discussion.
No, I was saying combine the columns into a construction and construction number. And people can see I'm spending money.
And honestly, if the goal is like good disclosure and leading people, disclosing to people in a way that you should perceive it should be allocated. It's not.
So let's
talk about how to do that. We marry these two, we don't delineate health, life, safety, except in my experience, flies over people's heads. They don't understand how that differentiates from another capital project. At the end of the day, it's a capital project.
And it's small.
Yeah, it's who's telling you to do it, that's all it is. To me, you book these two together.
As improvements, under what head? Improvements?
These two are the same, it's renovations.
Renovations.
It's renovations.
And addition.
And then you proportionally take this and put it back between whatever those two numbers are.
Right.
Proportionally take it back, leave FF&E, that's,
Right.
I think it's fairly clear. This, I don't know, so that clears us up and gets rid of what, 2 columns over on this side. Are we comfortable with, this guy goes to you, Dan, what you were asking before about, do we want to show what the total green number even is if we're not going to include it? Do we just take that off and put the 60% value there?
Yes.
And don't say 60%, just say,
to as few columns as we can.
or just make it the 60% value.
Yep.
But it's part of the total at the end,
It's all part of the total.
Yes, John.
Now it actually put across though, right? Now it actually just be able to add across.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not just doing math in between the
There's no
sections.
parens.
Yeah, you get rid of the parentheses, whatever we're doing. We just include the
I
total.
think we're almost there. So who can create those numbers fast?
Well, they're just here, it's just.
Well, we're gonna.
No, the allocation is the toughest part.
No, it's not,
Isn't it doing
Can't
Can't you just do it on a percentage?
Yeah, it is.
We need a signed out version of that.
It's not right.
Right.
You're just spreading it and helping it.
1 second, folks. 1 second.
Yeah, one of the reasons to keep the HLS and the grade report stuff.
1 second, folks.
Is so that people understand that there was stuff we had to do anyway. We are required to do the HLS stuff all the time. It helps you to tell the story, saying, well, why are the numbers, why is there an extra 3 million, 2.8 in this? Well, we had to do this stuff and we're going to have to anyway. Then the green report stuff is the same way, is that.
But does that change the story that you guys are talking about? What do we say, we have to do that, those dollar amounts, or they're just part of the project?
Well, but if you have to do it, you're still to do whatever you have to do, there are fees to do that, there's contract, right? So the whole point is 85.5, in this example, the 85.5 can be spread back across.
Absolutely, and just do it proportionally.
Yeah.
So who's gonna do it? I need a volunteer.
Wait, before, hang on.
Oh.
Before we get to it, are you talking about doing amongst the first 3 columns or combining the first 2 to have 2 columns?
Second rate.
I like the 3, and just
So 3 columns.
take a proportion of the board.
Yep.
Just proportionally over
Do
the
the
project.
math, just do the math, it's very easy to do.
Okay,
Put it
so make sure we're talking about
on-
3 columns.
I'll do it.
I can do the math.
It'll take me 20 seconds.
Go.
While she's knitting, she's.
While she's
We'll have a start.
Okay, guys,
Just cross it out.
let's be a little more disciplined.
We're supposed to be done by 8 o'clock
Right.
tonight, so this.
This was going to be a short meeting.
Yeah.
What about this? Do we need to show the total?
I just don't know.
For what?
You would take your.
I would never
No.
I would just show the portion that's getting.
Just show 12 so you can just say overall.
What's your opinion?
The only board like that.
And the storyline is that the district will make funds available through operational savings to contribute to some of the stuff going
Well,
on.
under that scenario, we're not even showing them that there's work beyond 2020.
Right.
I don't know.
It's an ongoing capital expense through 2025 in the header.
Well, this is on grab it for 2020.
Okay, I maybe not be going along, but I like having all 3 columns there. I think it tells the story that we need to tell about. Yes,
All
about
the
the project and after the project. So
And it's a small
I
number.
agree with eliminating 1 column from the first project cost. Using all 3 and I go.
Let me ask this, can we fit, I apologize, Rick, if we can make this fit, bring this number up, bring this number below it, so it looks like a math formula to the damn person.
So net capital expense, then it's just what's gonna be as part of the projects, right?
Yeah,
That's the
this is getting baked, this is getting
It's not like-
baked into
It's not just, it's not what the district can't fund throughout internal, it's what's gonna be, okay.
Yeah, that's what's getting baked
Okay,
into
so it means
it.
what's up front, okay, all right. Maybe I would just.
So do we have a sense of what this looks like?
Do we have consensus that we
I'll just take that out.
take these out and just use what's left?
Yeah.
That's the number we're trying to
Should we vote?
Yes.
Motion to take the first 2 out and leave the last column.
Would you still call it maintenance and repair plan through 25?
No, you
It would be gone, it'd be gone.
We're eliminating those 2 items.
That capital expenses through 2020, we'll put it in
Okay.
Okay.
Net additional.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah, additional, already planned, already forecast, however we're gonna phrase it.
Net additional capital expenses.
Okay, there was a motion.
No, I haven't had more space.
Yeah, that number is intended to reflect the fact that that's getting rolled into the current project. My thought.
This is.
Yeah, well, that's the portion that's rolled into the current project.
So can I just ask a question? We're saying net additional capital expense, will that, the additional word might make people feel like we're doing something that's not necessary, or wasn't planned? So I
We're not
just,
taking, not leaving the word net in either.
Well, that's why I said it was it's the green report.
oh, so yeah, I'm
That's
sorry. I
what it
didn't-
has identified as things that need to be done.
Why don't we just use the ongoing capital
I was
expenses
gonna
as the
say,
title?
call it net ongoing.
Ongoing capital.
Right, so it'll just be project costs,
Okay.
and the last one will be ongoing capital expenses under project costs.
By its-
Or by itself?
Yeah, no, we can give ongoing capital as its own title, and just make it the next box.
Okay. Melissa, does that make sense to you? Oh, yeah, okay.
So there's no
We'll talk.
But are we keeping the
Oh, yes.
footnotes? That it's capital expenses identified as the green report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Footnote is just created, so somebody moved on that.
Melissa, do you need help with the allocation? On these changes? You want me to sit with somebody?
The number allocation we need, just hand it over, basically, right?
Okay.
Well, if you can hold 1 second, I still want to clarify.
If somebody wants to lend me a computer, I'll.
We're gonna raise last bit of attention, so if I please chime in or something, that's not being said. We're gonna have, this one goes away, gets allocated on these three. This stays here, these two go. This becomes number 5, or become whatever the next box with that heading. Then the math just totals up across.
Well, with a different head.
Well, it's gonna have the ongoing capital in the box
Yeah.
as its own
So
title.
just so you know.
So it's still under the umbrella of project cost? It's the 5th item under the umbrella of project cost?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it does not have its own umbrella anymore? Okay.
No longer.
Now, the only thing that contradicts, I don't know if you provide, that contradicts Eric's request to make sure we showed that green report data separate. That it wasn't part of the
Project cost.
project, but
Right.
we grabbed a portion of it because it really is. You can't take that portion out, you just can't.
I feel like the ongoing capital expense just needs to be clarified and footnoted as to what that means.
You can explain to Eric.
Yeah.
Well, it is, it says capital expense identified in the green report, is that what you mean?
Right. It already
Yeah,
is.
well, I think like life cycle or some indication that it's, maintenance level type work. I don't know.
Here's an idea too. You could gray out, you could make a little gray, the 2 columns that are 40% and then estimated capital expense to indicate that they are to be added. That's an idea. You want to keep them?
So 20 is the number, that's the actual number?
Right.
This is from the Gilbane Green, this is from the data in November. That was the other reason probably.
But so if we take those out, we just end up with the 12, we end up with the wrong number?
No, we end up with the number that we're saying is gonna get baked into the actual project.
Oh, okay.
The challenge with that is we're taking numbers away that are already been reported on other documents. So the only part that I had trouble with is we have a continuity issue with the story. Which I understand what we're trying to do here, but that's my only
You can put
challenge.
that in the footnote, right? You can put those numbers in the footnote.
We've been trying to put it in the footnote, that's just.
Guys, we can't rewrite everything. It's just too late. We need to see what we can do with what we have to make it more comfortable for everybody, but we can't rewrite all the footnotes and do all that. The footnotes are the same for every board, so if there's one change that we're making and we can make it universal, if we start putting numbers in the footnotes, we're going to end up with errors.
Right, we can't do that.
I just have just a comment, and take it or leave it. I like the way it is, because I think people they're paying their property taxes now, okay? So when they see that estimated 40% is going to be funded by different sources, which means that their property taxes now, without the increase from the referendum, are going towards something. I think that's important to show that.
So there seems to be a lot of consistency around the project cost piece and the changes are going to close to that.
And that's
But there's
what-
much less here, and it's also complicated in terms of how you start adding layers of additional explanation. Is there anyone who feels absolutely critical that we not just leave it the way it is for the ongoing capital expense? Because if we keep coming back to things that it addresses the way that it is, any change we make creates more problems of how we clarify that information
The
somewhere
only
else.
change, if we do leave it, we need to make it clear that the 8.1 is not added.
So we need to bracket it or do something visually to show that it's a net.
I like the idea of graying it out. I think that would be something we could do.
Let's do that.
To give it.
Shade it differently than the
Shade
rest.
it, yeah.
Typically what you might see is something like a little O/W of which, so you have 20 million of which is the 40% of which. That sort of implies that it's.
Mark?
Who else knows that?
His kids know it.
That's like
Yeah, minus, right?
All right. So can we put a fork in it and be done?
We just don't have to read.
What's done? We're done.
So we made some changes
We're
to
gonna
project
make
costs.
changes. So the changes are, this is divided amongst the three, for sure. This stays here. These are gonna be here, but they're gonna get grayed out. They're gonna be tempered down. So this number, so if you do the math on all the highlighted stuff.
And that's it.
It comes
And
across
we're
and
done.
works.
Last thing.
Okay, so Anne is right now, as we speak, doing the numbers.
So are we.
I'm
So are you,
Yeah,
great.
we're doing.
Then we'll see if it all works out. How did you guys determine the allocation?
This is a percentage of these
I'm
values.
working from the back, so you guys work from the first.
I think we should all do it in a check.
Pro rata allocation project
Because we did the first one.
contingency
Okay.
across those three isn't necessary.
The
total number is, but
allocation has.
the allocation is.
It kind of goes back to my concern that this doesn't necessarily tie to your that's exactly.
This is very.
I'm taking some liberties and kind of generalize.
And we have to, we have to appreciate
All the good
that
intentions.
contingencies are
There's
totally
three people
different.
who will notice and we can explain it to them.
Those three numbers, contingencies are radically different.
Yes,
I'll show trick.
and the radical amongst plans.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so we got an hour and a half into what we should have been.
I like that.
I have
40 minutes ago.
Okay. Hey guys, just so you know, we are routing, during this meeting, Nicholas probably already sent it out, routing the boards to everybody that are actually the boards, that's what you're looking at here. So then obviously we're making changes to all the financial ones, but if you get a chance tonight after the meeting to look at the other ones and just kind of say, yes, I know what we're showing, great. You don't have to respond, just if you see a red flag, a true error, then let Nicholas know, but otherwise.
And I already know about one of the errors, and I'll put that into the note.
Okay. With that, can we break into our groups?
We're gonna do this for 20 minutes, folks.
I can just read them out.
So, group one is station one. Station one's gonna be over here or at the table, if you wanna go to the table.
We have a table. So the first station is what we are calling A, B, and C, the configurations formerly known as 4, 13, and 16. And that is Melissa, Helen, Jory, Dan Rubin, are you on for Wednesday night?
Excellent.
Okay, great, I think that's what you said. So Dan Rubin for Wednesday, and then Becky will be joining them on Thursday night. Becky's not here tonight. The second station is,
The second station, please just go to that corner.
yes, I'll join you guys in a second because it's me, Lori, Darren, Ann, and Fiven. Are you?
Thursday.
On Thursday. And if you want to know the rationale behind these, I'll share these with you as we're breaking them. That's, second station is D&E, or 5 and 6.
What models are station two?
5 and 6. B&E.
D&E. You didn't know about me. The third station is F, G, and H, so that's 20, 24, and 2. And that's raft and struck. You guys can stay right where you are, look at that. You have to.
So we have you guys go to the center of the table over here.
Ron, Ira, and Mark Fry will be joining you guys. You're only available Thursday, correct? All right, it's on.
You know Ron's gonna be in Korea? My schedule changed, I'm not gonna be able to go.
It's me, airplane.
You can Skype in, it's great. Finance is gonna be Mark, Brian, and Rick. Information, we have, our Rock is gonna be there for both nights is Julie, and Rocky will be there only Wednesday night.
Yes.
And then Megan, are you able to be
I'm
there?
I'm able to be there Thursday only.
Okay, so Julie, you'll get to hang with Rocky one night and Megan the second night. And that's.
Ronnie, I missed my
Ira, you are in the third station.
third station.
The way that these were grouped, I didn't say Rick, Rick is in finance.
Sorry.
So the way that these were grouped were really by, the first one represents the most degree of change, and that's where the first three, that's where we see possibilities for new construction.
New construction, highest cost,
Highest costs.
yeah. Reapproaches to middle school, that number of different.
Yeah, the second station shows the same buildings, the same costs, 2 different programming approaches. So D&E or 5 and 6, start calling by the letters, it'll be easier for you. are the regional pairs or those same sites used as pay cuts.
That's excellent.
With the same approach to middle. And then the latter station, generally, the last station, generally speaking, is the least amount of change overall, with the caveat that what we're calling F, or 20, does have more change at the sites that are being treated as these regional pairs. So yeah, lowest cost, least amount of change overall.
Although the costs are not dramatically different, we don't want to play that up too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're
more
not
about
playing up
the
anything. We're not playing up anything.
It's the Oldsmobile section.
Yeah.
Love an Oldsmobile. Finance is finance and information is everything. So, you know, as you're getting together, looking through the materials, ask yourselves and each other, like, what's the big kind of zinger that's gonna catch us? Like, what do we need to know that, you know, what can we anticipate at the forums? And if there's information that you don't have.
I think for whoever is the last station, F, G, and H, I think the thing you're gonna hear from Wayne Thomas parents is about the 2-section monolingual, so just prepare yourself for that.
Well, and so again, when you're working in the groups, like there's the question of what do you want to address in the groups? What do you think we should address at the beginning of the evening?
Yeah.
You know.
Say or not say.
Say or not
For some
say.
people, there's a very strong preference to keep it there no matter how big it is. So you're going to get a mix of feedback.
Well, we'll see. Well,
Yeah.
People like the 2-section.
Ronnie, are you reconvening us after this?
Yes, please.
Break out for about 20 minutes, we'll be reconvening later.
North side.
Red tables, or the round table is 1, corner table over there is 2, the center table here is 3.
Okay.
Finance, you guys are going to find your own spot. Try to be available.
That's why we're not a number 2. Oh, we're not a number.
You guys gotta find your own.
I'm telling you, my head's there. So you're not here
That's how my friends there are too. Yeah, that's how my friends are too. Same thing with my
My friends are brought up.
Yeah.
No, but wait,
Trying to do the numbers and press them in.
Or no, it's exactly the same as right side.
Who brought the ones
Take out the military.
I
did. The boundary function. Are you serious? That's crazy. Can you send me your note? I don't think I'm ready for it.
Who else is in this
Thank you.
group?
Be safe. And I know it's hard because I think from my high school is literally being held.
At least that's what he said.
You'll be missed.
Oh, yeah, I've done those, a couple of those shows. Those are great because your body's so whacked by the time you get back. You're really gonna be better off than if you went for like a week. You had jet lag twice. You'd be tired. So, when is your number 6? Two-thirds of the military is read up.
And whenever you're done, we're over here. She's working on our night now, so I'm okay. Okay, I'm almost.
Alright, so let's talk about.
Okay, so let's start with the board since that's our first page.
I'm just gonna freeze because I want to. Let's go. Okay. Let's go.
A is open plans. The early childhood center is still like About Model A is that
that it includes the two new buildings, the new middle school and the new elementary school. Where we need to be prepared to discuss in this one, that all of our plans are modular. We are showing components that there may be scenarios where there is a new middle school and not an elementary school, or a new elementary school and not a middle school. Just because this plan shows both doesn't mean that another plan has to have. We are showing what that looks like so that.
I think you have to start, Melissa, by saying what it is you're looking at. I think that's, okay. You just have to say, if we build 2 new middle schools, this is what we projected. 2 new schools, this is what we projected. We have to hold.
We do, but you have to keep in mind that the reason we showed it this way was because we wanted to.
So let me ask you, so how do you
Which is why it's not clear.
It's only one new school, that you're
right now there's $248
You'd have to find the renovated.
It would actually be a different. I mean,
You'd have to find the renovated.
So this is based on two
The price goes with.
There's definitely gonna be a new one, definitely gonna be a new elementary school.
In this model, but the way we have built.
There definitely will be a new one.
That is a plan for New Northwood.
You say it's modular.
Our process is modular. In that, we would like to know if they are interested in new new elementary school. There may, we may one and not the other in our later discussion. This configuration shows. So the bottom line is I don't want to reject or consider price tag alone.
A2.
Okay, so that's the key point.
Correct, the key point is that we don't want them to reject it on the price tag alone, we don't need 2 of them. But what we want to say is, well, an building offers the opportunity to replace the older building to provide you longevity and operating expenses or capital costs.
My other thing I think we're gonna say, I think we're gonna say this one just trails will be the I don't think that's just the way the district like.
No, so we need to think about this, guys, so this is like, there's.
Go back to the first one first.
That's 4 sections, right now.
That's a lot of kids.
There's a lot of kids.
Right, I mean, I get those.
Right, so right now, there is only going to Northwood. This would take the north side monolith and send it all over Northwood. So it would be basically taking Elm Place and distributing Sherwood and then distributing Trail to Northwood.
I get it, I'm just trying to tell, like, I'm just,
We're talking bearing in mind, so the other piece of that, we don't have to, so you guys know, the terrace and a large portion of the English speaking population that participates in the language program lives in Wayne Thompson and New So the reason their boundary schools have gotten so small is because those kids are also opting for dual language programs. So their boundaries are.
So is the existing.
I grew up in Deerfield, though.
People don't realize that those two populations can be combined.
Actually, I guess it's something.
Yeah, say that again, I understood about Wayne Thomas's, so many of the boundary area for Wayne Thomas is in dual language. Are you saying the same thing is also true for the trails that you just said? Okay, I didn't know that, so that's interesting.
If you look at Indian language, national language.
And that's why that building is so.
The
northern section, Can I, before we leave this, I have one, two. One is the big answer, and the second is whether we put it forward, whether it's going to come out as what we discussed. Somewhere we have one of those, 11 section Northwood alone without infrastructure. Somewhere
somewhere.
in these plans, we have the cost with us.
Yeah, that's, so.
Is it our group? Each are our, each one's our group?
We have the big new construction projects, we have, number 4, we have, the New Northwood and the New South. And then we have 13, which builds a wide range of
That one I know well.
set up.
We have 16 too.
We have 4, we have 4, we have
Probably on the sheet.
Yeah, they are up there.
That's guaranteed.
Sorry, that's.
You know, that came from we added here. Oh, you don't think it made it? I don't know which one made it.
Oh, they have it all individually, Ira? Yeah, I sent them all the ARPA individually and they matched it all up.
Helen, you're looking for 11, 6.
So this is what Lake has. I did drop in the read, but I don't think they're gonna get all of it. So it's
Okay, that's fine. So it's
Thank you for
here.
asking, let everybody know, but the other ones you have is correct.
Your grade, I didn't. We're building here.
But somewhere we have a grade.
5, we have 11 sections.
Oh, we do have it somewhere.
5 and 11 sections.
With, is it alone on the site?
Look at 5.
Yeah, it only has early childhood and part of my promise. So on the schematic,
Okay.
it has Northwood using, Lake Thomas with the connection
And in this one, we look and see. What I'm trying to say is, can you refer somebody? When they say, are you crazy, did you just get rid of, that's what you're doing. Didn't we just say, no, the 200 million, and then you show your plan in that way? No, can't we say, because I know the school will, I'm sure the board, would be, how much would this plan go down? If Northwood were not.
Well, that's what I'm saying, in terms of our modular, we cost it out, if we wanted to see practically for a new building, and a new building. So, that same cost for a new middle school at Northwood, but also that's what we do now. Or this cost for a new preschool at Northwood, doesn't mean we also have to do the new middle. This configuration shows both, but we want to know the new plans, right? So we want people to tell us, who would really like to. Yes, I would say
I hear you, I don't want to disagree with you, but I do.
I know what you're saying too.
I think there should be a direct ability to say, this is the realistically, we know what, you don't want to make this such a floating concepts out there that you're not going to engage in.
What's it called?
You can't put 40, Jana said we're not doing, the school doesn't want to do. So I wouldn't say that. We've rejected
I'm
that.
saying that you use them, like the.
So I think the thing we need to know is not to say, this plan could have a renovated board. Now, new middle school doesn't, the new elementary school does not have a substitute. There is no substitute other than to move the existing schools. But there is a substitute to that plan. And that is a renovated
Eliminates two.
That's not.
plan.
It's not art,
This
but you
model.
can't say the
Modeling.
model.
In this model.
You could say, if you wanted to refer someone to a plan where Northwood stays open, you would say, please walk over to someone here, Northwood would stay open, it's not right.
Would stay open as middle school and hold 11 sections without Wayne Thomas? That's what I want to see.
No, not without Wayne Thomas, that was just Wayne Thomas. The only place where, so 5 or 6 of the ones where Northwood is expanded without Wayne Thomas.
And theoretically, are you able, it's hard to tell because they haven't dated the project cost, how much of that went to making Northwood the school?
The bond number for that, I mean, that's, yeah,
They
that's.
do, but they do.
Well, we could dig deeper, but we're not deciding.
So could we say, would you like this plan, or would you, well, you don't want to read that, that's for sure. There are plans where Northwood, that's right, there are plans where Northwood is renovated. If that's something you think makes this plan right, you notate it. Put a note, very good. But I want to say that's the natural, that's what, oops, I guess. That would be my note, if I came up to that point.
Right. And so we do hope that people make notes, but I think that's a lot of plans, like in this scenario, Northwood has that site to itself.
Which is why I'm making a point when Northwood has this site alone, you can do a meaningful and valuable renovation.
I just required the whole
And we don't have that number.
Okay,
I asked about this last week.
Let's get that feedback, you use that.
Right, but then you also get into the question of what is the delta between
Well,
and then it's the long term.
well, the board will flesh that out or the focus group will.
But I also understand that seems like the best business.
Building do have a lot of terms, renovating the old building, and spending more money.
Over the long run, they're the long run.
Well, yeah, see, exactly. They're in their late 70s, 80s.
I don't know how many of those are.
And they don't even care about the big deal. I think they care about how much money is taken.
But just be encouraged, oh, we have this shit. It's not that much.
Yeah, they're gonna love that, right? No more density downtown.
So I like what Kelly said, that was a great meeting, and there's an opportunity here for Northwood to have this site to itself. And to be, have this site to itself. And that can be a new building or it can be a renovated building, but it's an opportunity.
But if it's a new building, this is what the configuration, and please, whatever thoughts you
And
have.
that's true, like when, if they want to know more about the site.
The reason I got stuck on that was I'm trying to find the places where we can get feedback that can be translated to roads.
Exactly. That's right. So just, and to be careful on that, about these arrows, it says as a whole, a new elementary school cannot replace that, because that's 730. A new elementary school about the size
Some kids will end up going the other way.
if you put it at Virginia, then it would just Virginia at Brayside. Put it at Lincoln, then it would be at Lincoln, boundaries. So, just knowing that, and we don't need to go into those details, but we just need to clarify that there's no office in that place, real buildings with the high school, you can't.
I also got confused on the side. So you say, we have a 730 population in middle school schools?
That's correct.
And this would be a 4-section school, so we would have like a 4.
Is generally what we say.
No, I didn't either.
And that's a comment that a new staff meeting in elementary school, like the size of Oak Terrace, holds about 486, 480. And these three schools currently add up to 730.
So a new elementary school in the southeast would only hold 2 of the 3 populations, so you just have to keep that in mind.
Some kids are gonna have to go to possibly.
Braeside could be very negative on all of these parents. Braeside could be population.
What happens if, what happens if?
We don't know, I mean, what if the new building's at Braeside, and if the Braeside and the Lincoln schools are
Or some combination, you know, it could be done east-west, it could be done west of Green Bay goes to Sherwood, or east of Green Bay goes to Sherwood.
We don't know where they're gonna divide
Yeah,
it.
we don't know the boundaries.
If the new building's at Braeside, then the Braeside kids are there.
But so that's the problem with.
How do you make that understand? I can tell you.
So that's the problem. That can be very and the reason that's all of it is
So your building is the best location, even though it's not the best piece of property. It could.
Tear it down completely.
Trying to get a referendum down.
Well, that's for sure. That's the school that's really about money and yeah, it's very hard to disrespect such a well-funded. You're right. It's not
So now, okay, so 13, model B. So this one is elementary school, and I'll tell you why that might come up as an issue. 6 elementary schools, this is K through 4. This is our only model with 5 grades. The thing about these 3 plans is they all have so model A is the typical 6 through 8, 2 middle schools. Model B is 2 middle schools, 5 through 8, and model C, which is 16, is the 1 middle school campus in the area of place. So our 3 configurations address the school in a big way. So this one is 5 through 8, it's done at 2 sites. So it's using 16 buildings. So IT would have 5, 6, and our place would have 7, 8. So we would be having.
Because that's not really noted, so I should make that. Oh, no,
You can see that there's 2
I showed it as 2.
no, but people will want to know, so it's IT gets 5 cents. Just for whatever it's worth. You know, the simplest things, the more times we can answer a simple question, not a big esoteric question, and at the same time, really not say too much, is something that's great.
We also would can answer the algorithm.
It's designed as 5 cents. It's designed as 5 cents.
Is now requiring you to be able to teach that gas management would incorporate everything together as an express, they would incorporate fire rate together.
Drawing, no, the drawing shows it separately, so we do need to say that the design is that 5, 6, and 7, 8 would be
We
separate.
gotta round up about, are you ready to round up?
All right, let's go back to the table. The drawing red also has 5, 6.
Could you say that again? Oh, the school will function.
This one, you can express the drawing is 5, 6, separated to 7, 8.
You're talking about, not here, we're going down Edgewood, we're talking that there's kind of did
So just something, I want to think about, I want to say what
We're getting close, we need a few more minutes.
Donuts.
Okay, so then something else, guys, so we have to think about this today, we have resources, if we turn over our page to our says people, so, if you are taking, calculation and you're saying it's in place, not practice, you're reading. So, when we talk about one of the reasons that we have, these language at one in the school building, is to do do with how we allocate the resources and resources to staffing. So if you're separated into two locations, you can some of those same issues that you would have if you were at districts who are not cross-using their resources. So maybe teachers want to cross, I don't know. Yeah, so.
And I feel like a school psychologist or speech therapist, like I don't see this being that big of an issue across the street.
Right.
It's not like driving from like three sides.
But if you have
Closer values in
Get back together, folks.
and they don't have the full day, they might have to go to other buildings to teach the rest of the period. It would be divided up here in the period. But that's really great.
Is that against the union jury, or they not? Okay.
It's not like it's you're talking about the time, you're gonna say we're part of the space.
The other thing about this one is that, it maintains the, elementary school to, so, right, so you're locating the middle school in some place, you switch to that. So the Indian kids are more likely to go to, the north campus to make up those more sections. And vice versa, if the sophomore.
Wait a second, they could also be, wait a second. Do any of these boundaries, do any of these feeders only part of Indian Trail or only part of any school feeding, another part of the school feeding? So far, we, but so far.
If the boundary is on Central Avenue, then we'll divide up the population. We have it,
We're not discussing that.
it's out of
And it's not what we're showing. We're not showing it in the trail.
So model C is number 16, middle school going over here. Right, single middle school. And we're gonna get the word single middle.
So what we want to say is, does the location changes? And it's 6th grade, it's not 5th grade, so does it change your opinion? It's not. Now, I will say that when Johnson is now
What you just say, there's not enough space to build 16?
There's not enough space to build 16.
The plan would show it. Probably
If for some reason our committee
Alright, folks, let's go.
Yeah, and the boards have, that's another item
I'm shocked as we can't build it. Is that what you just That's definitely. Thank you. But it could, for some reason.
No, he doesn't have adequate parking, he doesn't have adequate lighting, so we don't know what to do. Put that on 16, you know what, I don't know, we don't talk about it, but let's get an email, and we sent out the caveat that, and it is really, John said it like, it does not have. Where did this come from? I don't know, so we trust them.
This guy somehow shocked me when he said, this is the answer, we all get the same education, we're in the middle of town, 5th graders are out. Shocked me everyone voted for it, even though it was $250.
We'll make it work. Well, the parking garage, we'll make it work.
I have one last question. Has anyone ever gone to
Ladies and gentlemen.
I guess where they don't.
What we're trying to tease out is whether.
There's acceptance for that.
Let's go, folks.
Oh, I already did.
We can say 8 different locations.
We're gonna get home before sometime. Yeah, right.
Did you guys compare?
All right, let's go station by station.
Where do we park?
The forum is in the gym, the new gym in the back.
Wait.
The new gym, yes.
On the north side?
That's gonna handle like 1,000, 2,000 people.
Yeah, we're parking in park, we're,
That's exactly what we're expecting.
Well, we want to see what people have spent.
We're gonna divide it, we wanted to show the gym, if we felt we needed to drop a third of the gym, well, we did drop a third of the curb.
we are, that's the plan. Yeah, we walked it this morning, we're gonna use 2/3 of it, they're gonna drop down the divider. It's big, it's beautiful, it's amazing, you know, it will show people.
Where do you park? That nobody.
Park around the back.
It's off of St. John's.
It's off St. John's. St. John's in the back of the school.
What used to be the north parking lot?
The student parking lot.
There will be a parking information station available after we adjourn.
And everyone can swim after the.
Just if you're Ubering, just take a swim. All right, so station one.
Station one.
Okay. That's us.
We just want some highlights, any glaring, don't talk about, we gotta highlight this.
Did you want to go over your talking points one more time? Try and just repeat the bullets.
Yeah, so things that are not noted in the bullets, that where it says a new elementary school location undetermined. Actually, it is noted in the bullets, but for everyone who maybe doesn't know, a new elementary school would replace 2 of these 3 sites, not all 3. So we are going to clarify that in discussion, because the total population of all 3 of those buildings that we would retire in this scenario is 730 kids. A new elementary school in that area would be about the size of Oak Terrace and would hold like 480 kids. So that would be addressed, you know, later down the road, but just to know that the new elementary school would not hold all 3 of those populations.
Some of those populations, we have to go to other
We don't know where they're going.
We don't know where they would go, but we're just clarifying that that's the size of the.
It's 2 out of 3.
Yep, and, right.
Population.
Okay, and then on 13, we're going to clarify that Edgewood is also set up as a 5, 6, 7, 8. That where Indian Trail and Elm Place are separated, 5, 6, 7, 8, Edgewood would also be structured that way in this plan, so that there would be some separation, so that the student experience at both locations would be as similar as possible. And just noting that this one is K through 4, which is different from the other ones.
They kind of did that, if people question that building, they kind of did that when they had a population up to, you know, in the 700s or something in our place. They definitely had a pretty strong separation between the lower class, for the 5th graders, for sure.
When we moved,
I think it was 6th grade.
when we moved 6th grade back to Edgewood, that was, believe it or not, the parents said, we don't want our children going to school with those drug dealers and sex addicts in grade 7 and 8. We wanted their older brothers and sisters.
Well, the nation's out.
And he said, we'll leave 6th grade on the lower level and they will never interact. And that was how it was done.
So that's what I'm saying.
So on 16, what we're going to try to be teasing out is whether or not a middle school campus in a different location would work better than the previous referendum for some people, if that would address some of those issues, and also that it is 6 through 8 rather than 5 through 8. So there's some of those elements that we would want to tease out of that one.
So a downtown middle school campus versus
A downtown middle school campus, and then also the long-term sustainability. So in general, we will also be having the conversation at our station about new buildings, impact on long-term sustainability, that you do get some future savings by doing that.
And also, I then on that part, that also that less buildings creates more operating budget room as well, because that one you're talking about is a 5-building model, right?
Correct, yes. So on 16.
A lot more free cash flow.
Yep.
Right.
It's more upfront, but it's fewer.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
more.
half the buildings we have now, right?
Right, it's more upfront cost, but down the road, you have operational savings.
So, and I'm glad that this came up because this was a question that came up in our group. How do you speak to the long-range sustainability of these? And the answer is, we can't tell people what we don't yet know, but we can speak very generally, like the fact that fewer buildings are inherently more efficient. We know.
Right. Yeah.
I think you can say model 16 is the most sustainable model.
Do you feel comfortable with this saying that?
There's a corollary, there's a corollary to being more efficient. More efficient is sort of like, oh, thank God we're not wasting, but I think the corollary is that it gives a lot more opportunity to do more stuff in the future, because we have more money for discretionary programs, or we could levy less taxes, but there'd be more free cash flow in the district to do things like more STEM later on, or make more improvements later on than ordinary district cash flows.
And I think one thing to point out on this model that's different than what we offered previously is that there is an elementary school in each part of the town.
4 quadrants.
Well,
It's the brilliance of their.
Right.
It's, yeah, we have north, southwest, southeast.
Right, which is different than.
The Indian Trail population may see that a little bit differently, so we do want to be careful how we navigate that.
If somebody brings that up, I think.
But it does offer a consistent student experience across the district.
Okay, number 2 still?
Yep, to group 2, so I put myself in the group with the field models. We were pretty clear on this, same building, same cost, different programming in the 2 sites. One question that came up in light of the fact that, in terms of like those kind of front end questions that we're not answering, is what happens to closed buildings, which I think is just a good thing for us to remember, but not specific to this site. Again, operationally, we know that more sections of a given grade at a particular site are inherently more efficient because you can group the kids differently and you're less likely to have issues with sectioning. We also know that the regional pairs present some educational opportunities that are a little bit different, and we can sort of cater the sites developmentally and educationally, cater the IMCs and the content of the IMCs, play spaces. So it's an interesting opportunity to do a kind of apples to apples comparison. Same bricks, same price tag. How do these two look different?
And they exist in the north suburbs.
Absolutely.
So people may not know, we didn't invent this. So whoever has the pairs, it should have the ability to say, it's down in Lincolnwood. All right, so wherever, because people may think we invented the system.
And another, so the DL community is commingled with, the regional pairs allows you to commingle the DL communities throughout, and Northwood is more balanced in terms of DL and monolingual in this model than other models. Right?
And the only other model that we do have dual and mono commingled or whatever is in 16. So the rest of them are all academies, so there is a difference there to kind of tease out between 5 and 6. Because 6 is academies and 5 is common facilities. So
right, and on that same note, one thing that did come up is that E may prove more challenging than D in that you don't have a monolingual site on the far north part of town. Whereas when you have the pairs, you have mono and dual. That may be perceived as a real challenge for certain stakeholders.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to go back to one thing when we're talking about sustainability. Mark has a graph at the finance station that does talk about kind of different influences on that, and so if you want somebody who really, really wants to talk about that, you send them that way.
Yeah, basically, it's for people who say, I don't understand, I don't get it. If we have all these reserves and we've been running these surpluses, why does it fall off a cliff? I don't understand why it's doing that. So I put together a chart that shows the different components. It just breaks out the operating cash flow versus the building needs. So you can point to the reason, which is the building requirements. Direct. It was a chart that we had used at the last presentation on a screen, which got a lot of airtime, so I thought we'd make a poster of it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and you guys will have a laptop there too, to show, to
Oh,
the
okay.
model up.
Right.
We're not going to have laptops at the other stations, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
We need a screen, right, for that?
Sorry?
We have a laptop.
Yeah,
We need a
yes.
screen.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes.
Okay. The only thing that's really useful for, which I don't think we did too much of it, the last one, was showing how the reserve line moves when you close schools. Like, oh, wow, look at that, if you know, it makes you more sustainable. It's not accurate, but it's directionally
You guys,
correct.
not to get ahead of ourselves, but one question that came up for us, if someone is saying like, I don't understand all of this, how do I, and all I care about is the price tag on the front end, my tax impact and long range, how long is this gonna last, how long is this going to last? How long is this good for? And we send them to the finance group and ask, you know, if they have a question for a more like comparative analysis, do you guys feel equipped with the material that we have? To say this is what I can answer, this is what I can't answer, but do a kind of comparison.
Well, I mean, the problem is, you know, we haven't been able, it's sort of a chicken egg problem. We haven't been able to get cost savings information from Monica related to the staffing model because we can't give her 20 models and have her run all of them. She said, once you get it down to 3, then we'll sharpen our pencil and see what the savings are. So we really can't because we don't really know until we give her a building footprint and programming and stuff.
So maybe just keep it at the general concept level at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we can get you know.
We can get a little closer.
We can
because you talk about boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful the way you describe it, but it's hard to answer the question.
Well, you'll need to just want to describe.
I just think I guess we should avoid making predictions for the year 2030 as much as we can.
That's really sound
good point.
Like wisdom, I think,
Just in general.
in general.
I mean, you could just honestly explain, that's, you know, sustainability is gonna be an important factor in whatever comes out. And when we get, as we narrow this down, we'll get more information, we'll be able to give you a better sense of how sustainable we think this is, given the current environment.
And it's important to know that there are meaningful differences in sustainability across these buildings.
Right, there's a whole group that are sort of clustered together, and then there are a couple outliers.
Right. Thank you. Third group.
FGH. Big picture on FGH is that these are the 3 models that attempt to make use of existing space with the minimum amount of new construction. And these models demonstrate different choices that need to be made, making use of existing space, whether Braeside and Ravinia are used solely as an integrate center model, or they remain in operation as 2 section schools. That, or if Ravinia is closed, then Braeside becomes a 3-section school. So these 3 models demonstrate the trade-offs that result from that in terms of sectioning from keeping existing space. And these models, the total initial cost is lowest, and new construction costs are lower than in the other model. But you see that improvements do become more significant drivers of the cost for these approaches, and that has potential impacts down the road in terms of the ongoing expenses of sustainability. But at least the Model H in particular is a model that conceivably could be done without a referendum initially, and then work could be done add on in the future. These are the cost control models.
Is that a narrative that's been written that I missed, or is that what you guys discussed?
That's their summary.
That's the summary.
Yeah, we wouldn't want
And
to.
is that what you want to say, that these could be done without a referendum?
I was
Or do
going
you
to say,
wanna-
I don't think we want
We're
to
not going
communicate that.
to, we're not going to communicate that, but if people are
Oh, I
going to
thought that
ask.
was.
Yeah, no, these are just, that's one of the big pictures of this, of Model H in particular.
Well, and our range of prices is not great. You know, it's not like we're saying the low-cost ones are
Yeah.
75 and the other ones are
I think that's a huge
170.
message, which is just keeping the existing buildings and reducing the number of them. You're spending a lot of money to bring things up to scratch, you're just spending more of it on renovation and on ongoing
Yeah.
maintenance,
So
and
Right.
less on additions of construction.
I mean, you're still spending over 100 million, it's simply that this is now being spent mostly on renovations.
Well, and I don't know, one of the things that I'm really struggling with all of these is, how to address it's not even about the inefficiency of two-section programs, but we're not talking about boundaries because we can't yet talk about boundaries, but what we know is that two-section programs require more frequent consideration of boundaries. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to like do a pulse check on that. And it would be at this station if we were to do so, or do we hold that in abeyance? I don't know. Because people might say, oh, I love this sort of looks like what I know, and I love what I know, but how much do you love it if we're saying like, well, you know, you're gonna have to really.
A lot of people don't love it.
Right, and a lot of people don't love it, but maybe would you love it less if you knew that like, if we're really going to be,
I feel like boundaries, if we're either going there or not going there, I feel like we're using it selectively.
That's
Doesn't
right.
work as well. I think the compelling thing is here is, look, we're having to spend an amazing amount of money just to keep these buildings at an acceptable standard that's going to renovation and capital maintenance over time. Look at the other models, look at the total cost, and look at how those allocation of your money would shift depending on those different things.
where's the value
And
proposition?
see which one you like better. There's no right answer, but just be aware that that's where the money's going.
You know, there's also these models.
Even the way that you just characterized.
The way I did it was
I
not
can
the
tell
way to do
by-
it. That's very guiding.
But you know, you're
I
at
can
the
tell by-
car dealership, you hear is what it costs to fix your car, but the new one has Bluetooth, it has Sirius radio, and people start to relate to pouring all this money into just repairs.
Yeah.
And to the long-term sustainability, I think this grouping of the three has the most question marks because you're just pouring money into really old buildings and, you know, at some point, we're gonna get another big hit.
Well, these three models have, particularly the ones that have, the one model that has 3 two-section schools, it has a certain appeal of stability immediately, but you have to realize that long-term there are uncertainties with this approach.
Because they're
Even the
old or because
stability-
they're two-section?
Because it's a combination of the two. I mean, both of these are factors. There's a factor that depending on how population shifts, these models are susceptible to major increases in drop-offs that are going to have to be taken into account in future years. And also that we have older buildings that carry certain risks.
Can I be the contrarian here? Yes. We've not done a boundary change in 20 years.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound authentic.
Using these buildings, and we've just said, okay, it's fine to stick 30 kids in this one and 14 in that one. So what is it now that's all of a sudden is going to say, okay, this district is finally going to do frequent boundary changes?
Because you have fewer places than one.
But not really on 24. I mean, you're not really closing much of whatever.
Oh, no, 24 is not that big.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Fewer you can go.
But you're going to continue to have economic there's the potential for economic inefficiencies then, so there are educational inefficiencies, that if that's what this community decides it wants to build into the system, it's going to have to live, we're going to have to recognize that has certain sustainability issues that are going to come up again at some point.
Many small
I know,
buildings.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's the.
So I feel like the boundary word is one we should.
Right, so.
Don't work.
We should cross boundaries and not talk about boundaries.
I would not talk about it because for 20 years you haven't touched the boundaries and you're not doing that much difference in some of these models.
Yeah.
I did share a recommendation. I think that at the focus groups, you should ask a question about boundaries at your last focus group and just see where people's priorities are and how willing are they to save money, to equalize class sizes, how, you know, to send people across 41 for elementary school. Those are the types of questions that would be very, very useful to ask.
To unpack there, but maybe not to trigger that. At the forum.
Not the forum, I'm talking about the focus group. We're talking about, you know, in a couple of weeks.
Right.
And guys, just a note on these, this group caught that in this cheat sheet, I have the wrong feeder diagram attached to Model G. So if you're looking through these later, the boards are correct, but on the cheat sheets, it's not correct.
So don't panic and say, Melissa said.
Yes.
Or Nicholas.
I have 20 on there twice rather than having 24 days.
So if we could ask the process team, was there anything from you guys that
What is the error?
jumped out?
24 is.
I guess we were just basically the state of the district and the process, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's just not good. It's
you
the
know,
wrong one.
between the two, the more difficult questions are gonna come on the process side. And it's just a matter of trying to explain, what is the heat map? Why do we use the heat map? And how did that end up going, you know, coming out with that scattergram? It's trying to explain what is the scattergram? And then we're trying to achieve the arc, not necessarily a quadrant. You know,
Good luck with
when we, huh?
Good luck with it.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Because you should be getting a lot of first timers. I
Right.
expect people like that to come to you guys, say, what the hell are we doing here, why did we get here?
I would think that, but then I would think if they went to those stations and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, well, why are these? And then
Oh,
they
yeah.
just go to process.
There's coffee in there somewhere.
Then,
Yeah.
So it's
Okay. Finance, anything? Where?
The thing I keep, I guess I've said this a few times, is that less schools, more free cash flow in the future. And it's something that, you know, I think is maybe worth mentioning in the front end about this, which is that, you know, obviously maintaining less buildings is gonna be, is likely to be more efficient.
And who is doing their opening statement?
And newer buildings will be more efficient for us as well. Yeah, is somebody speaking up front, John?
Yeah, it's gonna be a combination of the tri-chairs doing an intro. I may do an introduction to them, but it'll be them doing the opening PowerPoint.
So, okay, so Ralph and Rodney, so just for fun, just the point that I just want to, you know, see if we can weave in the beginnings, you know, is overall, we talk about sustainability or sort of ongoing costs, less schools are more, you know, likely to be more sustainable, less operating costs going forward. Newer schools, you know, likely have less operating costs going forward in the near term. So just sort of some opening point as people think about the different models, sort of the free cash flow, and the ability to reinvest that back into the district. Other than that, you know, the finance questions, we were just sort of thinking about who's going to ask questions about interest rates or property taxes or stuff like that. And the other thing that Mark brought up at the finance table was something like, where's my whatever $50 million option? You know, where's my $75 million option? How come there's nothing that's really cheap here?
And what's your answer?
Well, the answer is go to that station.
Go to Model H.
Let's talk about it for a moment. The thing that was brought up was that, you know, you can actually look at what's going on. There's sort of two things going on. One is there are deferred projects that have been built up over time. We also don't have the same schools that surrounding districts have, such as having air conditioning. We haven't replaced roofs over time, stuff like that. And then there's the whole new construction thing. So if we were starting off with all this deferred stuff being done, we could probably find that $50, $75 million option, but we don't have we don't have air conditioning. We haven't been, waiting for this. We haven't put money into the schools lately. Yep. So we have this thing. We just have both of them together right now.
Right,
We are the follow-up question is, was that in the survey? Did you ask for people to check 75 million?
75 was a question that was asked to some of the people.
And that went all out online and everything like that? Was that the one?
The three questions were 75, 100, and 125.
So Brian, the other answer.
So that's gonna be your next question then. Why did you offer 75 million? And then we'll say, because we took all your answers, and when we took all your answers to help us do more configuration, 75 million wasn't the only answer. The other answers were, yes, we want equal curriculum. Yes, we want ADA. Yes, we want life safety. So we factored all of that as well. And when we took all the answers in, there was no 75.
I would answer it a different way.
And
I would say the purpose of that question was to find out where people's heads were at. We had a lot of information to convey, like what you're asking me right now.
That's right.
So it is not about, I think that if you had a lot of time, but if you're just going to give people a quick answer, we want to understand where people's minds were at, or what assumptions they had.
We asked different questions.
And the other
That's a
answer.
common question without context. It's just how much money without any, what am I getting?
Well, that's.
Oh my God,
Ronnie, what's
I'm gonna explode. the other answer, and everyone needs to be prepared to explain this because there will be people showing up at these that this is the first time they're participating in the conversation, is that what we are trying to do is reconcile what we have with what we need. We don't have a ton of space for new late greenfield builds. We don't have a big bag of money. We have an amazingly, wonderfully diverse population, much more diverse than many stakeholders understand. And not only is it educationally and ethically imperative that we deliver certain programming for everyone, but it is mandated. So we're trying to really bridge the gap between what we have and what we need. And what we have are these buildings and these sites. And we know, and you know, we've been doing the work really trying to refine what we need. And I really think everyone, that's so essential when you do run into the person who's really showing up for the first time to convey that.
And there is also the March mailer at the information table that explains a lot about why we are where we are and what the situation is, the challenges. So if they really get stuck on, well, I don't understand, why are these our challenges? And they need reading material, send them to Julie and they
I just have a question, okay, and a question that you might get. If we did not do the repairs on the buildings that needed to be done, okay, over a period of time, shouldn't we have a lot of money in reserve because of that?
No, because we're operating to we spent it.
Okay, that's the answer.
That money went into 14-person lunch.
Okay.
That money went into what?
14-person lunch.
And the teachers teach.
Well, we want to get.
Will these be recirculated before the event?
They are for you.
Yeah,
No,
those are just cheat sheets. I can give you the new.
Those aren't the actual.
I can replace that page that has the incorrect artwork, is that what you mean?
It would, are you updating the numbers?
Just give us.
Oh, with the new numbers.
That's right.
No, I'm not gonna be able to do that, I'm sorry. But I do appreciate that you guys, so these guys, in case you don't know, updated the numbers real time. So we've got them done, and we can, yes, thank you. The only question I have on that, guys, is are we updating any of the footnote copy based on, so we've had, columns 1, 2, 3, and 4 all had separate notes. So now that column 4 has been folded into 1, 2, and 3.
Well, I wanted to ask the tri-chair to stay afterwards so we can manage this.
Okay.
5-minute conversation about this.
Just a question for Wednesday. Parking in the north lot?
Yes.
Going into the gym or into the, whatever they call it?
To the field house, I call it the gym field house, on the south or east face.
And what time?
We start at 7, so I'd be there at 6:30.
So it's called, we have new badges for this time, or do you want me to bring one?
Everybody wear your badges. If you didn't get one, the rest, I do have some in my office. If you didn't get one, I probably have a date.
I don't have a badge.
We're not here.
I don't have.
Were they from last time?
You don't have one?
You put it on the curb, someone really show up wearing an iron jacket.
If you would, send me an email, I'll see what I have in my.
Park in the student lot that's north, you said?
North of the school, park in the street lot.
Opposite John.
Item 7, is there any other matter we need to address tonight?
As a full group.
Or would someone love to make a motion to adjourn?
Can I just ask one question? I'm so sorry. Do these price ranges reflect anything less than the full vote? Did you already apply price reductions in these?
The 15% number to the end.
Right, but
To the whole
the top number is all.
The top one is the not to exceed number.
No, the only thing.
With full ADA, with full
Correct.
sprinkler, everything
The whole
full.
The only thing that's reduced, Helen, is the green number has been brought down to the first 5 years versus 10.
Yes, I got that.
But otherwise, everything else is all,
Except for a 15.
except for a global 15% at the end.
Well, that's actually great because we get some good support for a couple of configurations.
What do you want me to send to
And they love them, but they just wish they were a little less. There's a place to go.
Well,
They people happy.
we're in the window of numbers that we can have a conversation.
John, we can enter from the back of the parking lot.
Okay?
You need someone to direct them to the proper entrance, or maybe to let them in the door.
Yeah, we'll work out with the school about how many, what doors we can have propped open, all council to get people back there, we'll have to work that out.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're done, thank you.